It's week 2 of this Prismatic Draft League season, although I've been pretty busy lately. Next thing I'm doing after this is putting together the week 1 video and uploading that. But it is week 2, and before we jump in, I've decided to change the order of things a little bit to try to get sort of a better flow to it. So we're going to do trades for this week, and then we're going to do the standings, and I'm going to try to lead that right into my matchup for this week, and we'll see how it goes. So, jumping right in, with the grace period over, there still have been some roster changes that some coaches have made, as some of the decisions they made before have not necessarily worked out exactly how they wanted in the very early part of the season. First, we have the Grampas dropping female Basculegion and Drampa and picking up Cofagrigus and Vivillon. So Cofagrigus, I mean, the obvious explanation for that one in my mind is this coach mentioned after playing week 1 that they thought Sableye could learn Trick Room, and it actually can't. And obviously they have some Trick Room game plans that they're trying to run on this team with Pokemon like King Gambit, Mega Slowbro, Mega Ampharos. We saw some Trick Room game plans centered on some of those Pokemon last time. So Mega Slowbro is itself a very good Trick Room setter, but I definitely understand them wanting another one. And so picking up Cofagrigus to do that job makes a lot of sense for them. As for Vivillon gives them some more cover for setup game plans, I would imagine. Obviously, I think Vivillon can have a very good season. It did a lot of work for me in week 1. But with that Compound Eyes boosted Sleep Powder, or with Rage Powder, or with Friend Guard, it's one of the best supports you could ask for to enable your Trick Room mode to go up. I don't think it necessarily only has to support a Trick Room game plan on this team. They have multiple setup game plans they can go for. Slowbro has ways to set up. We saw Mega Ampharos click Cotton Guard last week. Torterra, I think, gets Shell Smash, unless it doesn't anymore. Mega Delphox, of course, can set up with Nasty Plot, or King Gambit with Swords Dance. They have a lot of options, actually. And Sableye is a good support, but again, Sableye can't do absolutely everything, so having Vivillon to support all of those already very strong offensive Pokemon in some other ways, to me makes a lot of sense to this team. It does mean that they say goodbye to the mascot pick, Drampa, but I think they can live with that for 2 Pokemon that can bring a lot of value to them on the battlefield that Drampa maybe not always could. And dropping the female Basculegion, I mean, they already went with the budget Basculegion, female being cheaper than the male because of its lower attack stat. It does mean that they don't get the trio of Sneasler, King Gambit, and Basculegion anymore, but I don't think Basculegion was really necessary to what this team wanted to do. So to free up the points to get 2 support Pokemon that both bring something to the table that this team didn't really have before makes a lot of sense to me. Next, the Great Barrier Garchomps have dropped Mega Scrafty and Alakazam for Blastoise and Mimikyu. I didn't realize until I was making the image that these are exactly the same 2 roster spots that they swapped out in the grace period. So their previous trades had brought Mega Scrafty and Alakazam onto the team, and now those 2 are gone already. So I guess it took this coach a little bit of time to figure out what they wanted to do with those slots. Once again, I'm noticing first and foremost what these Pokemon can do in support roles, but Blastoise and Mimikyu can definitely hit reasonably hard as well if your opponent lets their guard down. But I can see Blastoise. Obviously, it's a fake-out support, and it also has that water typing to complement Pokemon like Mega Electros, Garchomp, and Talonflame. They do have a strong water type in Wash Form Rotom already, but Blastoise can do a lot of things that Rotom can't, especially with Hydro Pump being the only water type move that Rotom gets. But the fake-out support from Blastoise, and I guess the Shell Smash option maybe, although there's not really much you can do to support that. So I do think Blastoise is more likely to be a bulky support with fake-out. Definitely bring some things to the table for this team. The one that interests me more is Mimikyu. Mimikyu is one of the best Trick Room setters in the game. This team's not really built to take much advantage of Trick Room, although with Chestnut you could probably figure out some kind of Trick Room mode. But Mimikyu also has some other support options. It can burn things and whatnot, and with that disguise ability, of course, this is why it's one of the best Trick Room setters. It's very hard for opponents to remove immediately, plus it can set up an attack in its own right. Fairy and Ghost are both very strong offensive types. Mimikyu's attack stat is pretty reasonable, and it has ways to boost it. And it can even form a Fairy Dragon Steel Core with Garchomp and Mega Lucario, which probably are 2 of the main centerpieces still of this team's game plan. So Mimikyu I could see complementing those Pokemon very well. Finally, for week 2, the Calgary Camerupt have dropped Gyarados and picked up Liepard. The main thing that catches my interest about this one is that Liepard was like 3 points cheaper, so they saved some points that they can use somewhere else later if they want. Next thing that's catching my eye is 3 dark types in a row on that roster, though that's all the dark types they have, so it's not like this is a crazy number. But yeah, I don't know what the plan is for this one, but Liepard is a very tricky prankster support Pokemon. It can set up manual weather, it can encore things. I don't remember off the top of my head everything else that it can do, but it has a lot of ways to disrupt an opponent's game plans. I could see it setting up clicking Rain Dance actually, and setting up a manual rain mode for things like Mega Dragonite and Empoleon. And that could also help them clear opposing fairy resists to make room for their Mega Floette. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Liepard click Rain Dance pretty often, but it also has a lot of other support options to make it hard for opponents to stop something like Mega Floette setup, or even Ceruledge setup. So I don't necessarily know every plan. It's the kind of tricky Pokemon where I'm not going to figure out every plan that they've come up with for it, but I could definitely see it making some of their obvious game plans even scarier than they already are. And why Gyarados is the Pokemon to drop for that, I'm not sure. They maybe just haven't found a specific role that they like for it. It does have some redundant typing with Empoleon and to a lesser extent Mega Dragonite, but it's a strong Pokemon. But I guess Liepard's support techs that it brings to the table were worth it. And again, I'm curious to see whether they'll do anything with the points that they saved by dropping down to a cheaper Pokemon here. That's all the trades for this week. We're going to go now to the standings. Like I said, I'm trying a different order. We're also going to start with the other pool. So here are the standings in Pool A. Obviously, half of the teams won last week and half of the teams lost. At the top, with a 3-way tie on differential, we have the Dapper Digletts, the Minnesota Marshadows, and what is a stab move anyway, yet to drop a game. But the Oguris and the Poblano Ho-Ho Peppers also won week 1. And of course, it's very early in the season. Anything can happen. I'll take the opportunity now because I forgot last time to mention that these are not the official standings tables. I make these myself. There is another tiebreaker after game differential. Maybe someday I'll start tracking it, but when I originally started doing these, I didn't even really know what it was. I just have teams listed in alphabetical order, but there could be some minor inaccuracies that will probably not matter very much to the playoff picture, and I'll call them out if they come up. But right now, yeah, 5 teams won last week, 5 teams lost. And anything can happen. And it's the same story in my pool, Pool B, where the Halifax Masquerainmen were on the winning side last week. Behind the Azure Bay Chatots and the Hisuian Houndstones, just by the fact that they swept their opening sets, and it took us the full 3 games. The Calgary Camerupt and the Revolting Raichus also up there with us. But 5 other teams still looking for their first win, and one of them is the opponent this week, and I've talked about this team already in this video. It's the Great Barrier Garchomps. So let's go right ahead to the matchup. The Garchomps have Garchomp, what do you know, Talonflame, Blastoise, Mega Lucario, Wash Form Rotom, Mega Electros, Mimikyu, Mr. Rime, Emolga, and Chestnut. So I actually found this kind of a tricky team to prepare for once again, because, okay, so their main thing that I think this team wants to do is click Earthquake with Garchomp. I've been saying that since the draft recap. They have Talonflame to set priority Tailwind and be immune to its partner's Earthquake. And then they have 3 other ground immunities. I almost missed Emolga there. They have Rotom, Electros, and Emolga, all able to sit next to a partner that's clicking Earthquake with absolutely no problem. Chestnut can do it if it clicks Wide Guard, but obviously there's an opportunity cost in that. And they seem to want to just set Tailwind and let Garchomp pop off, which is not a huge problem in itself for my team, because I started off with a little bit of a ground weakness in my draft, and then I took some steps to try to fix that. So I drafted 3 Pokemon in a row, Vivillon, Serena, and Gyarados, that all are pretty strong answers to ground types. But this is where things get tricky against the Garchomps, because my ground immunities, Vivillon and Gyarados before I Mega Evolve it, and even Gyarados after I Mega Evolve it, are all weak to the strong electric type damage coming out from this team. They have 3 different electric types, all of them with that ground immunity. But of course, Mega Electros is the most notable one. But Rotom in Wash Form is very, very strong as well. So I'm going to tell you now, I was very close to not bringing Gyarados to this matchup at all, because Gyarados is so afraid of those 3 electric types. But then quickly my best Earthquake answers start to disappear. And I still have Serena, but then Serena is very vulnerable to Talonflame. Queenly Majesty can block Gale Wings boosted attacks, but if it just clicks Flare Blitz or it's not at full HP, then I'm not in such a great position anyway. So the Garchomp is really well complemented by all these ground immune electric types, as well as things like Talonflame and Blastoise to cover its weaknesses here and there. And the next thought that I had was I could focus on Hisuian Goodra and try to set up with Shelter. And I'm weak to ground at first, but I have ways to mitigate that, keep the Garchomp from running wild against my team. And then what else do they have? I mean, Goodra resists the electric type damage, as well as the Rotom Hydro Pump. Goodra's not going to be massively threatened by Talonflame either, although it could click Will-O-Wisp. But then, Goodra is very vulnerable to Mega Lucario, especially if it runs a special attacking set. And also, Chestnut genuinely can cause me some issues if it wants to set up itself, maybe click Leech Seed. I actually had to be thinking all throughout this building process about how to not lose to Chestnut, because it's actually pretty easy, especially with it having Bulletproof to be immune to Gengar Sludge Bomb and Vivillon Pollen Puff, for Chestnut to give me a lot of problems in an endgame if I don't properly cover for it. So, got a little bit deeper into the team building weeds than I usually do at this matchup moment, but I've been talking a lot about this team wanting to click Earthquake with Garchomp. I have ways to stop that. The problem is they have answers to my ways to stop that, is what it comes down to. It's a hard team to build against, and in the end, I have already said what I decided to go with. We're going to go to the team right now. I went for the Goodra plan anyway. And by the way, I think I said in the draft recap that Goodra has multiple ways to boost its defense. That was because I thought it could learn at least one of Acid Armor and Iron Defense, but apparently no, it just gets Shelter. But that does the same thing as those. So I am going for the Goodra setup anyway. With that in mind, the main threats to that plan are Mega Lucario, Garchomp early on before I stack up defense boosts, and Chestnut, because Chestnut can Leech Seed me and boost up itself, potentially. So the rest of my opponent's team is largely kind of shut down by Goodra. I am a little bit afraid of Will-O-Wisp as well from something like Talonflame or Rotom, but yeah, those three Pokemon are the main threats, and in the end, where it was hard to cover for everything my opponent could throw at me, I decided the best thing I could do was bring my Pokemon that can shut down a lot of their team, and then build in specific answers to those specific main threats. I do think I've probably not gotten this exactly right. I had to build the team a little bit hastily this week because again I've been pretty busy, but that is the basic idea. So I am going to try to pretty aggressively set up Goodra with Shelter. I have two of my main support Pokemon available to help it do that. So I have Screens, Light Clay, Grimmsnarl with Parting Shot as well. And I have, this time, Friend Guard Vivillon. I had trouble choosing Vivillon's ability this time. I was really thinking about Compound Eyes, Sleep Powder stuff again. And also I wanted to run Hurricane to be able to hit Chestnut. But that is one trade-off that I've made against that Pokemon. So I'm not running Hurricane on Vivillon. Hopefully I have enough answers to Chestnut elsewhere. But it is instead Friend Guard with Rage Powder. I still have the 75% Sleep Powder, and I can also click Pollen Puff to heal my Goodra beyond the leftovers. Goodra has Shelter, it has Shell Armor, so it can't be crit. It does have leftovers for chip recovery. So those three Pokemon already create a pretty strong wall that is hard for a lot of my opponent's team to break through. Goodra has Body Press for damage, and I also have Ice Beam. So I wanted an attack that could hit Mimikyu. But, and why did I want a special attack? I think just because Goodra is a little bit stronger on the special side. And maybe I was a little bit afraid of Will-O-Wisp as well. And also Chestnut boosting its defense. I chose Ice Beam. It's neutral into Mimikyu. And it is neutral into a bunch of their other stuff that can take Body Press relatively well. And it's super effective into Chestnut. That's the main thing there. If Chestnut is boosting up alongside me, at least I can freeze it, or maybe it's not very specially bulky, so Goodra doesn't necessarily straight lose that head-to-head. I wanted some second attack to be able to damage Mimikyu at all and get past their fighting resists, and yeah, that was why Ice Beam made the most sense to me. Of course, also if I ran a Dragon Stab, that wouldn't work on Mimikyu, so wouldn't quite accomplish my goals. It's supported by Grimmsnarl, Vivillon, and then the other three Pokemon, I had a little bit of trouble trouble picking. I was originally planning to bring Armarouge instead of Gyarados, which in part would give me more of a threat into Chestnut. I was thinking maybe like a Choice Scarf from Armarouge, but I decided Gyarados is valuable here, even though it's massively threatened by all three of their electric types, purely because I need a way to put pressure on Garchomp in the early game. If my opponent just leads Talonflame Garchomp, I need a way to not, and clicks Tailwind Earthquake, I need a way to not lose to that. Goodra is badly positioned against that if it hasn't gotten any boosts yet, which it won't have on turn 1. Vivillon is immune to the Earthquake, but very vulnerable to Talonflame. Grimmsnarl just doesn't do a whole lot back to them there. Also, I think I went with especially bulky Grimmsnarl because outside of the Garchomp, my opponent has a lot of special attacking threats. And I wanted some chance of taking a hit from Mega Lucario if it's a special one, which at this point I've convinced myself it probably will be. So, yeah, I figured I needed something to deal with Garchomp and Talonflame turn 1, and it was worth using a Pokemon slot on a Pokemon that I was otherwise not sure about in this matchup, just to have that the opportunity to do that. So, suppose I lead like Grimmsnarl, Goodra, which I'm not sure I will, but suppose I do, and I see Talonflame, Garchomp on the other side. I can click Reflect and switch Goodra out to Gyarados, and then I get Intimidated into Garchomp. I get my Reflect up. Gyarados is immune to Earthquake. Gyarados resists one of Talonflame's 2 stabs. Right, immediately my opponent has a lot of pressure on them, and then probably I do have Dragon Dance, so I have that option if I get a good position for it. But probably Gyarados just wants to attack and take advantage of the pressure that it puts on the opponent. And even if they switch out, Gyarados is still a very strong answer to Talonflame and Garchomp. In the back, if I get it back off the field, try to beat their other Pokemon with Goodra. So, yeah, where that looks to me like my opponent's main mode, I think being able to shut it down, and importantly not lose to it early in the game, is well worth bringing Gyarados. I have the Mega Stone because I have to, and I have Power Whip because that hits, I know that hits Rotom hard. What else does it hit? Blastoise. Yeah. My opponent's water resists are Blastoise, Rotom, and Chestnut. I'm once again taking a little bit of an L against Chestnut here, but honestly I just didn't want to run Bounce anyway when my opponent has so many ways to take advantage of the extra turn and snipe a KO on Gyarados. So I figured Power Whip was worthwhile enough, but you can see how I'm making some concessions against Chestnut already, and I'm actually a little bit afraid of it at this point, which is part of why I'm running Ice Beam on the Goodra. It also partly explains the Mega Gengar set. Mega Gengar is once again the fastest Pokemon in this matchup, although my opponent's running Tailwind and I'm not, so I can't necessarily count on that all the time. But it is my hope that Gengar can come in, not necessarily early in the game, but maybe later, and clean up if Goodra has fallen just short of winning the game or snipe a key KO at some point. And I do have Sludge Wave on the Gengar this week for 2 reasons. One, Goodra's probably spending a lot of time on the field. Goodra's immune to poison, so the side damage to the partner doesn't matter. And also I have Protect on most of my other Pokemon, or Detect, everything except Grimmsnarl, so Gengar will get opportunities to click Sludge Wave. But also, Chestnut isn't immune to Sludge Wave, and with Bulletproof I believe it is immune to Sludge Bomb. So this is one of the choices that I've made specifically to be able to hit Chestnut. It is stopped by Wide Guard, but if I have another Pokemon on the field, I can attack Chestnut for free with that if it Wide Guards around the Sludge Wave. And also Wide Guard is a turn that Chestnut is not clicking something like Iron Defense or Body Press itself. The other thing about Sludge Wave in this matchup is I don't really need it to cover very much. Shadow Ball hits almost my opponent's entire team hard enough, so Sludge Wave being run as coverage specifically for Chestnut is actually pretty reasonable here, and that also gives me more cover so that I'm not hitting my own Pokemon. So I have multiple layers here, right? Gengar's likely to be on the field next to a Steel type. Almost everybody else has Protect, and I probably don't have to click Sludge Wave very often. So all that I think justifies running it to mainly hit Chestnut. For the third move, I didn't feel very strongly. Gengar has a ton of options that are reasonable. I could run like, I could run Focus Blast for Mega Lucario if I wanted, or I could run like Will-O-Wisp, Icy Wind, Disable. I thought about Destiny Bond, but there was nothing that I felt like I really needed, and I decided to go with Taunt in the end because I'm a little bit afraid of a Will-O-Wisp into Goodra, and I'm a little bit afraid of Chestnut setting up if it gets free turns to do that. Granted, maybe I'd rather just click Sludge Wave into Chestnut. But hey, if it's going to spam Wide Guard, I also could stop that with Taunt, and then the Sludge Wave is pretty free. So taunting Chestnut or taunting Rotom or Talonflame I think could be valuable enough in some positions that where I didn't really feel strongly at all about what to do with the third move slot, it was probably worthwhile. Finally, Conkeldurr is here. I keep talking about being afraid of the Mega Lucario. I do want Gengar to be able to click Shadow Ball into it. I do think Gyarados can threaten it in some positions, especially since I'm relatively unlikely to Mega Evolve Gyarados in this matchup. I think it's a lot more likely I Mega Evolve Gengar. But yeah, I wanted more answers to the Lucario than that, and that's why I'm running Life Orb Conkeldurr. I calced Black Belt as well, but with the Life Orb and Iron Fist and Max Attack, Conkeldurr has a good chance to just one-shot Mega Lucario with Mach Punch. With a Black Belt, it's there still is a chance, but it's a lot lower. But I think a 0 bulk Lucario is like a 75% chance, 3 and 4, to just drop to a Mach Punch. Which is why I'm running Life Orb Conkeldurr. And then since it's an Iron Fist set, I just filled it out with some more punching moves. Ice Punch gives me another thing to hit Chestnut, somewhat harder than a Mach Punch or Drain Punch will. But that's pretty much it. It's pretty straightforward Conkeldurr set. Since my opponent probably wants to go fast with Tailwind and naturally fast Pokemon, I did consider... I told you I was thinking about Scarf Armarouge. I'm sure at some point I was also thinking about Trick Room Armarouge with Conkeldurr, but no, instead Conkeldurr is just here mainly to be the strongest answer I have to Mega Lucario. So when we zoom back out to the bigger game plan, shut down a lot of their team with Hisuian Goodra. I have supports for that in the forms of mainly Grimmsnarl and Vivillon. I have to watch out for Garchomp. Gyarados helps with that. Mega Lucario. Conkeldurr helps with that. Chestnut. I do feel a little bit weak to Chestnut, but Mega Gengar helps with that. And also I have Ice Beam on the Goodra. And I'm a little bit afraid of Will-O-Wisp, but not so much that I have to massively cover for it. But Taunt Gengar maybe can help with that situationally. I don't know for sure that I got this team right, but I think as a first look at the Hisuian Goodra mode that I've had in mind since the draft, this is worth a shot. And so we're going to see what happens when we cut to the games right now. Here we go. I guess I should say good luck, have fun. I still haven't uploaded last week, but that should happen today on the same day that I'm playing this. Okay. Okay. Lucario, Garchomp, Talonflame, Mr. Rime, Mimikyu, Electros. Nothing too surprising except I was kind of worried about the Rotom, and that's not here. And I stressed a bunch about the Chestnut, and that's not here. So, okay, kind of nice the Chestnut isn't here for sure. I do have to be careful about Mega Lucario and Garchomp. I think I'm going to keep it simple. Game 1. What do I bring? Like, Goodra Grimmsnarl is my simplest lead, with Gyarados in the back. I need to be able to handle Lucario, so maybe I actually bring Conkeldurr instead of Vivillon. Vivillon's not that good here, except that it can give redirection cover to Goodra one time. Well, 2 times, maybe, with the Focus Sash. I think Gengar is definitely getting left behind this game. I think Vivillon versus Conkeldurr is an interesting choice. And I think I'm sufficiently afraid of Lucario, but Vivillon also helps me with Lucario because, like, I can reach Powder Body Press, right? Okay, let's do Vivillon for game 1. Think about Conkeldurr for game 2. So it is Garchomp Talonflame lead. But I have something specifically for this. I also am a lot more free to Mega Evolve Gyarados if I'm not actually bringing Gengar to this game. I could actually just protect their Garchomp, but yeah, I have a bunch of physical damage mitigation on the board. Yeah, actually there's just about no reason not to Mega Evolve. I mean, it makes me less weak to Electric Attack and Freeze Dry. More weak to Fairy, but I hit Mimikyu through the Disguise at least. I don't get Intimidate anymore. Okay, maybe I won't Mega Evolve just yet. Let's Waterfall the Talonflame slot and Parting Shoot the Garchomp slot. We get Mr. Mime coming in, cleaning my screens. I didn't think about that. I kind of forgot about that ability. Now I'll go right back to Goodra here. Dragon Claw into Gyarados. Life Orb Garchomp. Okay. Waterfall did half to Mr. Rime. That's not bad. I'll bring Grimmsnarl right back in, and I'll go for my Shelter here. Still a little bit concerned about Lucario in the back, and there it is. As Mr. Rime fakes out my Grimmsnarl. Okay, I get my Shelter, but again, I've been anticipating special Lucario. I could Spirit Break it. But I think I want to protect Goodra this turn. I think that's okay, actually. Spirit Break and Protect. And I can think about Parting Shot next turn. It just protects, so it doesn't show what it can do. That's not ideal. Oh, wow. They take away my Prankster, too. Oh, I'm actually in some trouble here because I protected this turn. My Goodra's actually pretty vulnerable now. Okay, well, I'll click Parting Shot anyway. They could, like, Flash Cannon Grimmsnarl. I think I have a chance to survive that, but I don't really remember the calc. You know what? I'm just going to body press this Lucario. Okay, they are in my head rent-free right now. Wow. That didn't even knock out Mr. Rhyme. Okay, well, that gets me Vivillon. I'm going to protect through this turn because I'm anticipating that Lucario will also want to protect. But yeah, this Mr. Rhyme is way trickier than I had planned for. At least this switches out here, so the ally switches off the board this next turn, but they don't protect the Lucario. They actually just go straight for a Meteor Mash. I'll click Sleep Powder into Garchomp and Body Press into Lucario. I think that's okay. They just Bullet Punch Vivillon. So I do get to put Garchomp to sleep. I didn't have to click Rage Powder there, is what that worked out to. Also, Bullet Punch, Physical. Meteor Mash, Physical. Perhaps it's not special Lucario. I'll protect Vivillon this turn. Just try to get rid of Lucario if I can. They close combat Goodra. That still does a lot when I'm at +2. That did so much. Oh, and now they can go Mr. Rhyme and Fake Out. So I'm way out of position against that. Mr. Rhyme. I'm going to click the side Pollen Puff, but I think they're going to deny it. Oh wait, Protect is going to stop it, right? That was a silly play. Oh, I just messed up. I actually should have Pollen Puffed Mr. Rhyme there for the KO. That would have worked, but okay. Not punished as they miss a Rock Slide into my Vivillon. Can I get the Pollen Puff now? That was a really silly play that I made. Oh, they bring Talonflame back in, okay. I do get the Pollen Puff this time. Body Press does very little, actually. I'll go Gyarados here again. I'm not going to show Ice Beam yet. Let's actually go for another Shelter. Talonflame shows Blaze Kick. Why does he even get that? The Rock Slide just misses the KO on my Gyarados, but Gyarados is not going to do a whole lot more in this game. Let's just Mega Evolve it, if only for style points. And go to +6 on Goodra. Blaze Kick goes into Goodra. Dragon Claw takes out Gyarados. And now I'm down to just Vivillon and Goodra, but I think Goodra probably just wins the game at this point. Let's protect Vivillon and Body Press Garchomp. And that's the other thing. Vivillon won't take a dual Wing Beat, and I don't think I have a quick KO on Talonflame, so I think I just try to take out its teammates so far. For now, I mean. Okay, this could have Fake Out. I mean, they can knock out Vivillon if they want to anyway. Let's just click Sleep Powder into Talonflame and protect Goodra. As the Fake Out does go into that slot, they will take out Vivillon with a Blaze Kick. Body Press Mr. Rhyme. They can never crit Goodra because of the Shell Armor, so Talonflame just doesn't do enough damage. Oh, well, now they can crit Goodra. That was a smart play. Well, let's see what +6 Body Press does to this. I'm gambling for crit here. My opponent says in chat, yeah, fair. It's your one out. No crit. But Talonflame takes one more Body Press, so it gets one more chance. Could also burn me with Blaze Kick, I think. I think that move has a burn chance. But none of that happens, so we take game 1. And we move on to game 2. And what is going to happen in game 2? Physical Lucario is a little bit easier to deal with, but I don't know who Carbon Monoxide Leak is, although I have a guess. But that close combat still did a lot, and I was already at +2. So I think I might want to bring Conkeldurr. I think Conkeldurr could be pretty valuable in game 2. Just having a priority button could have done a fair bit in game 1, although Conkeldurr is kind of afraid of Talonflame. Honestly, Grimmsnarl wasn't that good in Game 1. Maybe I leave that behind. Let's try something like this. Well, let's try exactly this. Mr. Rhyme and Mimikyu leading this time, okay. I don't know where the Fake Out's gonna go. I say the Fake Out goes into Vivillon. I'd rather keep my Focus Sash. Although if it's Will-O-Wisp Mimikyu, I might regret playing this like this turn 1, but that at least will be useful to scout. Fake Out does go into Vivillon. I just play Rough into Goodra, okay. Lowers my attack, which is fine, I'm not using that. Just aggressively go for my Shelter here, and I'll go for a Sleep Powder into Mimikyu. Maybe I should Pollen Puff Mimikyu to break the disguise. But I think Sleep Powder's good. Okay, Garchomp's here. Mimikyu's asleep. Do get another Shelter. I think I'll just go straight for +6. And sure, let's break that disguise if they let me. Again, they can't crit me unless they skill swap Goodra again. That was a good tech, but they haven't done that yet. Okay, there goes the disguise. Earthquake will now do damage to Mimikyu. It does a lot to Mimikyu, actually. Does more than I'd like to Goodra, but I'm about to go to +6 here. Let's go for a Sleep Powder into Garchomp. Why not? Okay. Landing our Sleep Powders even without Compound Eyes this week. Bit of good luck there. Mimikyu will wake up. Shadow Claw, Goodra. Let's show the Ice Beam now. Yeah, let's get rid of this Mimikyu. Just Pollen Puff Goodra to keep it nice and healthy. Oh, Mimikyu protects. Okay. Well, now I'm showing the Ice Beam, so they know I have something to hit it. I guess that makes sense if Garchomp is going for Earthquake. It actually goes for Rock Slide. It misses Rock Slide into Vivillon a second time in this set, which is pretty bad luck for my opponent. As I still have the Sash here, I can just go for another Sleep Powder into Garchomp. Maybe I'll miss this one. The Sleep Powder versus Rock Slide comparison in this set feels pretty unfair. Mimikyu's gone. Wouldn't bet that crit mattered, but I have no idea of the calc. Electros. Honestly, it seems like probably the best thing my opponent can do is... Actually, I'm going to Body Press Garchomp, because I kind of think what my opponent should be doing here is aggressively going for a Skill Swap, so they get more chances to crit. I'm going to get rid of Garchomp so that I can't get crit by Earthquake after they do eventually do that. There it goes. I wonder what Electros has. It could be special. Okay, well I just protected, so Vivillon is vulnerable to Fake Out. I'll protect Goodra. Fake Out into something, giving them free Elevate. I think I'll just switch Conkeldurr in here, so that the Elevate is less free. Yeah, the Fake Out goes there. It's Flamethrower into Goodra. Okay. Let's just Body Press Electros and Detect. I guess I don't need the Mach Punch to hit Mega Lucario because they didn't bring that to this game. Oh, right. Ally Switch, yeah. Flamethrower has the burn chance, so that makes sense for them to go for, but... Now I think I just Body Press... Excuse me, I think I just Body Press Electros and I Mach Punch Mr. Rhyme to get rid of it. They can't even safely Ally Switch again because it can fail. It's used consecutive times. There goes Mr. Rhyme. Fishing for the burn makes sense, but yeah, they're still not getting it, and I think a Mach Punch will just take out Electros now. So GG's to the Great Barrier Garchomps. Definitely had some good luck here, landing every Sleep Powder and dodging 2 Rock Slides. Welcome to Pokemon Champions so far, but Yeah, that's a 2-0 win for the Masquerainmen, so a strong start to the season continues, and although the Lucario gave me a little bit of a scare, the setup Goodra mode looks very, very powerful. We'll see what opponents have for it going forward, of course. But anyway, on to the rest of the league. This week, we're starting the other matches around the rest of the league with another one played on Pokemon Champions. This one between the Zurbe Chatots and I think the Snowpoint Snorunts. And we'll find out in a moment. We have their rosters helpfully on the sides here, so I actually do get to know what they haven't brought as well as what they have. But we'll find out in a moment what they actually brought. Somehow this video is a lot shorter than the Ontario Oguris Pendragon United one last week. We jump straight into team preview, so we see for the Chatots, Skeledirge, Mega Swampert, Ditto with an Iron Ball, that's fun. Farigiraf, Mousehold, and Politoed. So Farigiraf can set Trick Room, and then Ditto will underspeed whatever it transforms into. That's super fun. But they also... The team looks mostly geared toward that, with Mousehold probably being a support with that Focus Sash, but they also do have Mega Swampert for a fast Pokemon in Rain if they want. On the Snorunt side... So that is Mega for Alligator, I remembered, but also it's helpfully labeled on the side. They brought 2 Megas. They brought for Alligator and Gardevoir. Tailwind, probably available with Whimsicott. I don't know what the Meowstic is here to do, but I don't really see a Trick Room game plan from the Snorunt side. So if Trick Room goes up for the Chatots, then that could be a reason that this set is shorter than the last one we saw in Champions. I don't know. I don't know right now who wins this. Sometimes I do know ahead of time, but I've been trying not to pay attention to that this season. I don't know right now, but I'm just saying Trick Room going up could be pretty hard for the Snowrunts to deal with when it looks like they have a Tailwind game plan and nothing especially slow, although we don't know what Meowstic is here to do. Meowstic can be pretty disruptive into Trick Room because it gets Trick Room itself, and it also gets stuff like Yawn. It might get Imprison. I don't remember, even though I had it in a draft league pretty recently. And the Snowrunts have brought a very strong Fairy Dragon Steel Core with Mega for Alligator, Goldango, and Gardevoir. Only one of the 2 Megas can Mega Evolve, but still, they have a lot of synergies to lean on against an opposing team that looks like... You know, I keep talking up the Trick Room, but it looks like it doesn't have a huge amount of offensive power with both Farigiraf and Mousehold, as well as probably Politoed being dedicated support Pokemon. So, these game plans are very different from each other. There are different conditions that each team wants in effect, and we'll just have to see what each of them ends up going for. I forgot that the Chatots have 3 Megas, but they didn't bring the Aerodactyl or the Chestnut, just the Swampert. Anyway, let's skip ahead to the game 1, and see what we got. We get Meowstic and Hisuian Samurott, which it didn't even really talk about at preview, leading for the Snowrunts against Mousehold and Farigiraf. So this looks like an aggressive Trick Room lead, right? You probably click Trick Room and follow me. We see U-turn on the Mousehold. That's interesting, but of course that'll help it get off the field once Trick Room is up, and it'll outspeed most things, or underspeed most things, I mean, in Trick Room, so it'll have a slow U-turn to get things in safely. Like, Mousehold is probably the fastest Pokemon on the field right now. But we do see Imprison from the Meowstic, so confirmed it is able to shut down that Trick Room option. We see a Night Slash from the Samurott. So we're getting a good look right away at what the Snowrunts prepared for the Trick Room mode, right? Samurott would be very threatening into Farigiraf with that Night Slash, except that it was redirected into Mousehold. But the Imprisoned Meowstic still prevents the Trick Room from going up. I did not see what the Chatots coach went for here, but we'll find out in a moment. As we see Reflect from Meowstic, so another way to slow down damage and deal with a Trick Room game plan that way, right? Making it harder for them to take the KOs they need. I did not see a Follow Me this time, but the Night Slash goes into Mousehold anyway and knocks it out with a crit that doesn't matter. They would have liked to get that crit the previous turn, probably. And we see Farigiraf just go for Foul Play, which just tickles Meowstic a little bit through the Reflect, and with Meowstic having a low attack stat for it to use. Skeledirge and Swampert are in the back for the Chatots. Notably, that is Mega Swampert without Politoed, so it won't have a way to activate Swift Swim. So the speed control advantage still looks like it belongs pretty cleanly to the Snowrunts so far, although Swampert might be wanting now to knock out Meowstic so that Farigiraf can still get the Trick Room up. Maybe? Although Hisuian Samurott is so threatening, like, can they beat it with Skeledirge, or do they need Swampert to get rid of it? We do see the Swampert Mega Evolve here. It gains a bunch of muscle, but what's it going to do with it? We see something from Meowstic first. Nope. Meowstic must have gone for an attack here. We see a Night Slash into Farigiraf. Does a lot of damage, but doesn't quite KO. And we see Farigiraf eat its Citrus Berry, but that's not going to help it take another Night Slash, judging by that damage. We see Psychic from Meowstic into Swampert. Does not do a whole lot, but it does get the special defense drop. And Swampert goes for Wave Crash into Meowstic, but that is a tough Meowstic. That is going to take the Wave Crash and the Foul Play double up, survive at 6%, thanks to the Reflect, but also I suspect thanks to quite a bit of physical bulk. So Farigiraf not quite knocked out yet, but neither is Meowstic, so we're in a pretty similar position to last turn, except that both of those Pokemon are lower than before. They're definitely in danger of being knocked out here. We see Meowstic switch out. If the Chatots had gone for Trick Room this turn, I mean, unless Farigiraf is knocked out beforehand. Actually, can you select Trick Room while an imprisoned Pokemon is on the field? You probably can't. So I don't think they would have been able to do that. We just see Farigiraf protect here anyway. As Swampert takes a Night Slash, takes a bunch of damage, but it's still here. And a Wave Crash into Gardevoir also does not knock that out. Swampert now getting very low after that recoil. And again, with no way to get the Swift Swim going in this game because they didn't bring Politoed, it's truly going to be outsped by Gardevoir as well as Samurott. First, we'll see the Gardevoir Mega evolve. And is the Mega of choice for the Snorunts in Game 1. And then Samurott goes next. Has Samurott clicked Night Slash every turn? It might be Choice Scarfed. I don't think it has to be Choice Scarfed. I don't really remember its base speed relative to Mega Gardevoir, but I think it's probably a little lower. But I could be mistaken. Anyway, single target Hyper Voice will clean up the Swampert after Farigiraf faints, so that leaves Mousehold at low HP and Skeledirge at full. Nope, Mousehold already fainted, my bad. It just leaves Skeledirge. And I don't see how the Skeledirge stands up to the Hisuian Samurott. We see that it does have Alluring Voice, but it's going to be outsped and Night Slashed. And also it went for an attack into Gardevoir here. So Hisuian Samurott just absolutely... I mean, Gardevoir took 1 KO, but Hisuian Samurott pretty much sweeping this game for the Snowpoint Snorunts. I would think. Unless there's a surprise that I really can't see coming at all. But a bunch of Night Slash damage to the Skeledirge. Gardevoir just goes for Hyper Voice. It's resisted, but Skeledirge is low, and it's a single target. Pixelate boosted Hyper Voice. So that is a pretty clean Game 1 win for the Snorunts. What do the Chatots have to deal with that? The Trick Room game plan was completely shut down here, so I wonder whether we'll see Politoed in Game 2. But as I skip ahead, I can see that we're not going to see Politoed. In fact, they're going even slower. They're bringing the Iron Ball Ditto and leaving the Swampert behind. So the Chatots really all in on, well, probably the Trick Room game plan. I don't know what else they can do if they don't manage to get Trick Room up in this game. Wait. No, it doesn't work. I had a really funny idea. Wait, what position was Ditto brought in? Ditto's in the first slot, so they are leading Ditto. I just had a really funny idea, but it doesn't work. Lead Ditto, Imprison first. Stop the Meowstic from using Imprison. The reason it doesn't work is Meowstic is faster because Ditto has the Iron Ball, so Meowstic's Imprison will come out first and Ditto won't be able to use Imprison. But it's a funny idea if you ignore the absolutely idea-ruining logistical flaw. Okay, Meowstic Samurott again, this time against Ditto and Mousehold. Ditto will transform into Meowstic, so if that's what they were trying to do for some reason, they get the guessing game right. But they don't have Farigiraf on the field, so there's no Trick Room this turn, unless Ditto wants to click it, but how's it going to do that? I was going to say we get confirmation. We saw all of Meowstic's moves in Game 1, so we had confirmation already, but there they are, Trick Room, Imprison, Reflect, and Psychic. Obviously it never used Trick Room, but we know from the Imprison stop and Farigiraf's Trick Room that Meowstic had it. But what is Ditto's plan now? It has Prankster, but it has the slower Prankster because of the Iron Ball. It looks like it went for Reflect. And Mousehold is going to taunt Meowstic. But Meowstic, yeah, no matter what, gets to Imprison before anything else happens here. And the Chatots still have no threat into the Hisuian Samurott, which almost knocks out Ditto with that Night Slash. If it had gotten the boosted crit rate there, That would have done it, but it didn't. The Camerupt is so far only getting crits that don't matter. And we see Mental Herb on the Meowstic, so it shakes off the taunt. Although it already clicked the main move that it needed to anyway. Looks like Ditto might switch out, but... yeah, what comes in? Both Pokemon in the back are also very vulnerable against this Night Slash. We've seen it. We've seen that it's a 2-hit KO on Farigiraf, even with the Citrus Berry accounted for. But Ditto does switch out here to Farigiraf. As Camerupt just Night Slashes Mousehold with a crit. Oh, and there's no Focus Sash. Mousehold narrowly taking the crit on an invisible Focus Sash. Wait. It does have a Focus Sash. It still has it, so it definitely didn't activate. I didn't miss it. That just happened to do exactly 160 damage. So Focus Sash only activates if the attack would have KO'd, but that one just happened to be 1 point short. That's kind of nuts. You don't see that very often. Ditto's here, transforms into Camerupt, but it's at low HP. It does avoid a Psychic from Meowstic, but it's at low HP, and we know, although the Snorunts don't know, I don't think, that it's slower than the real Camerupt. I guess, I'm going to pause for a second. That's something I haven't considered. Leading Ditto and turning it into Meowstic could be a bluff, because the Snorunts don't know that it's not a speed tie, or even that it's not in Ditto's favor. Ditto often runs a Choice Scarf. Locking yourself into a prison maybe isn't great, but that might have been what the Chatots were going for, because they really had their backs against the wall against Hisuian Camerupt in Game 1. Were they trying to bluff their way into setting Trick Room? Scaring off the Meowstic from using Imprison if it thought their Imprison might come out first? Well, if that's what it was, it didn't work out. I didn't even think about that when I was commentating that part of the game. I kind of forgot that I know things that the other side doesn't. Anyway, now they've got a slower Camerupt than the real one. The opponent's... The one thing that's sort of helpful to them here is the opponent's Meowstic can't damage the Camerupt, and the opponent's Camerupt has to choose one target to attack. I think it is Choice Scarf Camerupt, as we see it as 4 attacks. But, yeah, it can't knock out Ditto and threaten Farigiraf at the same time. So that could create an opening, except the problem is Farigiraf's Trick Room is still shut down, and we know it does like no damage to Meowstic. So I think the real Camerupt is very safe to just knock out the Ditto here. But if it targets Farigiraf for some reason, Ditto is hovering over that Sacred Sword right now. Really thinking about it. Almost running out of time here. They go for the Sacred Sword into Camerupt, but I suspect it's not going to work out. We'll see. Here's the Reflect. What does Camerupt do? Night Slash into Ditto. Yeah. I think that was the right call, because what is Farigiraf doing to threaten them? It's foul play into Meowstic. It is 18%. I think is about what it did through Reflect in Game 1. The Mousehold is still here this time, but you can't really do anything very threatening. Skeledirge is vulnerable against the Camerupt, so I think Hisuian Camerupt is basically just going to sweep again. It's funny, I didn't even talk about that Pokemon at Team Preview. I didn't properly think through its matchup here, but it is absolutely just wrecking what the Chatots brought to this set. They have a couple things. They have a few things in their draft that could have helped to deal with the Camerupt. Conveniently enough, I have their whole draft on the side of the window here. Main Ectric might have been of some help, but Mega Chestnut or Fortress certainly could have done something to the Camerupt. Oh, they actually knock it out with an Alluring Voice from Skeledirge here, so it's not quite going to sweep. But I think that's probably too little too late. I don't know how Skeledirge can possibly pull this one back. There's probably, again, Mega Gardevoir in the back, or even like Vanillux. But yeah, Mega Gardevoir first, the stronger spread attacker. Copying Friend Guard. But I think it's going to Mega Evolve and get rid of that. Mousehold can click Follow Me, but I don't know that Skeledirge takes a Hyper Voice right now. I don't know that it doesn't. We'll find out. Going to go for Shadow Ball into Gardevoir. I don't know that Shadow Ball does enough damage either. There's the Mega Gardevoir, giving up that Friend Guard for something a lot stronger here. Follow me from the mouse hold, but I think it's just going to be Hyper Voice. Taking that out, and possibly the Skeldurge as well. Actually, I'm wrong. They found something better. Psychic knocks out the mouse hold. The Focus Sash never actually came into play because it happened to take a hit at exactly 1 HP, but it is still Hyper Voice from Gardevoir. Not Psychic or Shadow Ball or something, but it is single target damage into Skeldurge, so it does help them a little bit to ensure the KO. And I'll be honest, I forgot the Farigiraf is still around. I thought that was the end of the game. But Farigiraf just is not doing anything at this point. It just went for Foul Play into Meowstic, and we've seen what damage that does. Meowstic can just click Psychic. Maybe it'll get a special defense drop. It doesn't, but the single target Pixelate Hyper Voice from Gardevoir. Farigiraf takes that reasonably well, actually. The problem is Farigiraf just doesn't do anything back. And it's just completely free here for the Snorunts to go for Psychic and Hyper Voice again. There's the Psychic. Do they get the drop this time? It might take one more turn if they don't. But they do. Okay. Well, that just speeds up the inevitable, really. As the Snorunts just... they also get a crit with the Hyper Voice. I don't think that was necessary after the Psychic drop. The Snorunts just absolutely swept the Chatots aside this week. Mostly on the strength of Hisuian Samurott. There just wasn't really a good answer to that Pokemon brought to the set. I don't even know what else there is to say. Let's go to the next one. We've got the Fluffy Friends taking on the Revolting Raichus. The Friends have brought, I think, the same 6 Pokemon as last week. So once again, a bunch of fast, versatile threats that could throw all kinds of tricks at their opponent. And also Pangoro and Garbodor are here. And the Raichus, though, they seem ready. They have some bulky Pokemon that can take hits from whatever weird coverage the Fluffy Friends might throw at them. The Friends have brought a lot of fighting weaknesses again, because they brought 4 Dark types. So Toxicroak is a threat. Corviknight or Steelix could be very threatening with Body Press. Tyranitar is just a strong Pokemon that can take hits and hit back hard. It could be running fighting coverage as well. Also, the Fluffy Friends brought 5 Fairy weaknesses, and the Raichus brought their Primarina, so Garbodor might have its work cut out for it dealing with that threat. I don't know what Gourgeist is here to do, but at face value, this looks like an uphill battle for the Fluffy Friends. But let's see if they have some surprising sets on offensive threats like Greninja and Dragapult that can catch the Raichus off guard. Gourgeist leading, the one Pokemon that I least understand here, along with Toxicroak against Incineroar and Pangoro. So Toxicroak is going to get intimidated immediately. Gourgeist as well, which probably doesn't matter, but like it could have like Shadow Sneak to hit Dragapult. Doesn't do a whole lot else here. We get the Frisk on Gourgeist, so we see there's Charcoal, Incineroar, and Citrus Berry Pangoro. Fake out from the Toxicroak, flinching Incineroar before Incineroar can potentially fake anything out. We don't know what Incineroar went for, but it did move next, and it flinched. So rather, it didn't, but it tried to move. Body Slam from Pangoro does a little less than half to Toxicroak, and Gourgeist is here to set Trick Room. That does make a lot of sense, actually, when the Fluffy Friends have a bunch of fast, dynamic attackers like Meowscarada, Greninja, and Dragapult. Tyranitar now switching in, apparently not afraid of this Pangoro. Takes a Fire Punch, no problem. The Pangoro Body Slam doesn't get the KO on Toxicroak and paralyzes it, which could kind of cut both ways, right? Toxicroak being paralyzed could mean full para, but it also means it's slower in its own Trick Room. Toxicroak, that said, will be chipped by the sand. It's definitely not planning to stick around for long, as it crits Pangoro with a close combat and knocks that out. So lowered defenses, paralyzed, sand damage, but paralysis could be an asset in the Trick Room. Dragapult comes in, but it's pretty vulnerable in this Trick Room. -1 attack Toxicroak just knocks out the Incineroar anyway with a close combat. All those fighting weaknesses kind of backfiring for the Fluffy Friends. We see Dragon Pulse. We see Dark Pulse from Tyranitar, so a special attack coming out. Does enough to Dragapult that Dragapult then feints to the sand damage. And finally, the last Pokemon for the Fluffy Friends is Garbodor. I do actually think it's kind of necessary for them in this matchup to beat the Primarina. Maybe not. Maybe they have like Gunk Shot Greninja, but Garbodor is here, but it's not facing Primarina. We see Toxicroak switch out to Steelix. We see a Dark Pulse into Garbodor, chipping it a little bit and getting the flinch. And Steelix will Mega Evolve. and take out Garbodor with a high horsepower. So maybe it's not relying on body press, this Steelix. But yeah, like I said, an uphill battle for the fluffy friends, as Gourgeist just set up Trick Room and then his teammates cleaned up. Let's see if the friends have an adjustment for Game 2. But this is a tough matchup for them, for sure. All these bulky threats that threaten their Pokemon offensively. We see Meowscarada and Greninja against Toxicroak and Corviknight. So notably, the friends leading with the 2 Pokemon that they didn't bring to Game 1. So we'll see if they have some tricks up their sleeve. Fake Out into Greninja will poison that, thanks to Poison Touch. Meowscarada will move next, and Knockoff will remove leftovers from the Corviknight, do some chip to that Pokemon. The problem, of course, is Knockoff will no longer get the boosted damage on Corviknight, so that damage doesn't look too bad, but future Knockoff damage will probably look too bad. Corviknight just sets Tailwind, so the Raichu is going for the other speed control option this time. Toxicroak not paralyzed, still moving before everything, just taking out Meowscarada with a close combat. As Corviknight roosts, we see Chilling Water from Greninja. We don't see Protean on Greninja, which means it's running Torrent. Chilling Water does get an attack drop on Toxicroak, but we've seen this Toxicroak put in work at -1 attack already, but maybe Incineroar will come in now? Nope, it's Dragapult. They could have gotten, if they had Incineroar, they could have gotten Toxicroak down to -2 attack. I don't know if that would have helped, but it would have slowed the Toxicroak down a bit. Instead, Greninja gets wiped out by a close combat. Dragapult will move next. It's a very fast Pokemon, but Corviknight's just setting up with Bulk Up, not afraid of the Phantom Force, and probably not afraid of the Garbodor, as we see Toxicroak go for Coaching into Corviknight before dropping to the Phantom Force, +2 Corviknight, Brave Birds, Dragapult down to its Focus Sash. Garbodor explodes, but it does 10% to +2 Corviknight, and 1% Dragapult is all that's left for the friends, so Tyranitar is just going to come in and knock it out with Sand damage. Dragapult disappears with the Phantom Force, but the Sandstorm will knock it out anyway. We see Steelix switch in, probably just showing that it's here. And the Revolting Raichus take the 2-0 win. This was, like I kept saying, a difficult core for the fluffy friends to break. And that Toxicroak went crazy with so many fighting weaknesses on the other side. We never even saw Primarina make an appearance. Next we have the Ryan Green Blue Porygon 2s and the Calgary Camerupt. The Porygon 2s have... okay, trying to remember people's Megas now. I think it's Mega Blastoise, because I'm pretty sure nobody has Mega Kangaskhan. So, Blastoise with a bunch of supports around it? Well, I don't know. There are a bunch of different ways they could play this team. They could do Baton Pass stuff with a Spothra and Sylveon again, or a Spothra and Blastoise. And then you can cover some weaknesses into that with the natural synergy with Hisuian Arcanine. Notably, Arcanine threatens the Mo form Rotom on the other side. Or if you're going Sylveon mode, Arcanine can threaten Ceruledge. Basculegion is just one of the strongest Pokemon in the game. I don't know if I need to think about it much more than that. They have strong Fake Out with Kangaskhan, so you can see the beginning of some game plans, but I'm not sure what the details will be. On the Camerupt side, they've got their Mega Floette. They've got Prankster support with Liepard. They've got Intimidate with Overquill. They could be going for some cheese strat with Overquill potentially. Or Overquill could just be here to threaten Sylveon and, yeah, intimidate physical threats like Arcanine and Basculegion so that Floette can set up a bit more easily. Ceruledge, Crocodile, Rotom, I don't know. Ceruledge can be a strong setup Pokemon in its own right. And it covers for the Sylveon somewhat better. Crocodile hits stuff hard. Hey, there's not a ground resist on the other side. So they could just click Earthquake next to Rotom potentially in some positions, and Rotom threatens the two very strong water types on the other side. So a lot of moving parts here. I can see a lot of different ways this could play out, but let's see what the actual game plans are. We get Liepard and Overquill leading against Kangaskhan and Blastoise. So Kangaskhan will stop the Intimidate drop with Scrappy. Blastoise will Mega Evolve. We see Overquill just go straight for Protect, but the Fake Out goes into Liepard. It does almost 50%. Kangaskhan Fake Out is nuts sometimes. And Blastoise, I was wondering if it'd be Shell Smash setup or something, but it just goes straight for Water Spout. I guess you can't Shell Smash in front of Liepard because that gets Prankster Encore. So yeah, they did have to just attack and take the KO on Liepard there, which they did. Now we see Floette come in for the Camerupt. It Mega Evolves and is the fastest Pokemon on the field and just throws off an Energy Ball into Blastoise right away. So I wonder what Blastoise went for. Did the Porygon 2s just click Water Spout again, or did they anticipate Blastoise taking a bunch of damage here and have something to cover for it? We first see Kangaskhan go for Last Resort into Mega Floette, so it's that super fun 2-move Kangaskhan with Fake Out and Last Resort. Does a ton of damage, but doesn't quite get the KO. But hey, Water Spout, well, okay. Water Spout at like 40% might have knocked out Floette at this point, but Overquill goes before Blastoise. Almost gets the KO with a Poison Jab, reveals a Life Orb. What did Blastoise go for here? This could make a real difference in this game. Oh, Shell Smash. Okay. Blastoise almost got knocked out, but it didn't care. It went for its boosts, and I think it's going to outspeed everything now, but what is it going to do with those boosts? Flash Cannon into Floette. Flash Cannon into Floette is okay, right? Actually, I guess it kind of had to take out Floette there because Floette's faster than Kangaskhan, so Blastoise just... After the Shell Smash setup, which was fun to see, Blastoise just doesn't accomplish anything if it doesn't take out Floette first. But now it's probably going to get knocked out by Overquill. I don't think Kangaskhan is going to one-shot that with Last Resort. Or 90% shot that with Last Resort. I don't think that's going to happen. And maybe they get a crit. And it's kind of unfortunate to get that huge boost on your Blastoise and use it on a 7% target and then probably nothing else. But let's see what actually happens. It might not be nothing else. Oh, Last Resort. Oh, Last Resort did more than I anticipated. It almost knocked out the Overquill. Overquill also carrying the Invisible Focus Sash this week, surviving at 1%, but it does get to take out the Blastoise before dropping to its own Life Orb. But okay, Kangaskhan was closer to giving Blastoise more openings to attack than I thought. We also do see Ceruledge in the back for the Camerupt, so that could have Shadow Snuck Blastoise if that were still around. But we know the Kangaskhan is scrappy, so it can hit Ceruledge with Last Resort, and we also see Hisuian Arcanine come in, so I think this Ceruledge is in trouble. It just gets knocked out by Head Smash. We don't even get to see how well it takes a Last Resort. So strong game 1 from the Porygon 2s. The Blastoise didn't really get to do much with his Shell Smash, but it did a lot with Water Spout before that, and I guess the Camerupt had to focus hard on removing the Blastoise, without the Rotom notably, and they didn't have enough for Kangaskhan and Arcanine after that, so let's see what they come up with to deal with that now in Game 2. Rotom is here, it's in the lead, it's with Floette against Kangaskhan and Arcanine this time, so good lead adjustment by the Porygon 2s, maybe anticipating that their opponent would bring Rotom to try to deal with the Blastoise more quickly, and just leading Arcanine to threaten Rotom and also threaten Floette right away. Good way to take some initiative and try to close this one out quickly. We also did not see Intimidate from the Arcanine, I'm realizing now, which makes sense because it went for, I think it went for Head Smash last game, right? So probably it's Rock Head to avoid recoil. Floette Mega Evolves, takes 26% from Fake Out, and it'll be made to flinch here. Arcanine going for a Head Smash again, not going for Flare Blitz or anything like that. Maybe anticipating that Ceruledge might switch in. That makes sense, right? It would make a lot of sense for the Camerupt to switch Ceruledge in on an expected Flare Blitz, get a Flash Fire boost, take no damage. So Arcanine playing it safer, going for Head Smash into Rotom. It still KOs. Okay, so that's a plus as well to that idea. Now Liepard will come in. Arcanine's going to switch out to Sylveon, interestingly. I don't know why that switch. The Liepard is... I guess the Liepard's threatening like Thunder Wave or something. But it's also threatening Encore. But Arcanine, I think, would be fine with being locked into Head Smash. But instead, the Encore goes into Kangaskhan, so Kangaskhan is stuck using Fake Out, and then... How does it work? I think it fails a Fake Out this turn, and then I don't remember if it struggles or it's just freed from the Encore. Well, we'll find out. Sylveon switches in, so the Porygon 2 side accomplishes nothing this turn. We see Chilling Water from the Floette. I never would have seen that come. Maybe the Porygon 2 switched the Arcanine out to scout for that. I did not honestly know that Floette gets Chilling Water. I would never have seen that coming, but Sylveon takes that pretty well. It's not a very strong attack. Sylveon's especially bulky. Sylveon doesn't care about the attack drop, probably, unless there's some quick attack calculator in this game. Kangaskhan now switching out to Basculegion as we see a Snarl from Liepard, weakening Sylveon and doing some decent chip to Basculegion. Dazzling Gleam from Floette doesn't quite get a KO on anything. We see Hyper Voice from Sylveon. Still does a lot of damage at -1 because it's the Sylveon with a Fairy Aura as well on top of Pixelate. Knocks Liepard down to its Focus Sash and does some decent chip to Mega Floette. Oh, it did 30%. That feels like decent chip. Floette's getting worn down. Basculegion will now take out Liebird with an Aqua Jet, but that means Floette is free to attack again. Knocks out Basculegion, doesn't quite knock out Sylveon, but even with the single target un-nerf, even without the spread damage nerf, because it's only going into one target here, Sylveon not quite doing enough to take out the Floette. I feel like Aqua Jet into Floette was just better there. Was there something that the Liebird was threatening? I guess another Snarl. Yeah, maybe they couldn't let Sylveon take another Snarl. I don't know, because Aqua Jet would do some decent damage to Floette. Well, this is the position now. Kangaskhan's back. Once again, not getting Intimidate dropped. I mean, we know that Fake Out knocks out Floette at this point. And we know that Floette has Chilling Water and Energy Ball. Maybe it doesn't have Protect. It's running a lot of coverage. Certainly more than you usually see on the ladder or something. It does just drop to a Fake Out here. Sylveon gets knocked out by a Throat Chop. Throat Chop's a good attack here because, of course, even if it didn't get the KO, which in most positions it wouldn't because it's a Dark type attack, it would prevent Sylveon from using Hyper Voice because it prevents sound moves. In this case, though, Sylveon's already very weak, so it just gets the KO. But now, Overquill is alone against... What's going on in the chat? Oh, the Raymer King is begging again. Alright. You won week 1. And you're still doing this when you're way behind in another set. Okay. Alright. But it looks like the opponent is saying no. And Overquill looks very threatened by Kangaskhan and Arcanine here. And so, we do see a Flare Blitz now. There's no Ceruledge lurking in the back. And the double up from Flare Blitz and Last Resort is definitely going to take out this Overquill. Yeah, I don't know what's going on in the chat here. I think you lived this. I don't think anything on the other side was living this. Maybe Ceruledge, just because it wouldn't take damage from the Flare Blitz, but Ceruledge is not here. Begging did not work for the Calgary Camerupt, but hey, they're 1-1 now. They're very much... I mean, everyone's still in contention this early in the season, but it's not like it's going badly for them. This set went badly for them, but Camerupt are still... They're still competitive, right? They're right there in it. I don't think there was any need to beg this week, but... Non-Mega Kangaskhan really showed its power this week. It was doing crazy damage throughout. And the Calgary Camerupt just didn't have enough to handle that, and Hisuian Arcanine, and Sylveon, and Basculegion, and Mega Blastoise. And now, we move on to, I believe, the last set in Pool B for this week. The Hisuian Houndstones taking on the Louisiana Hypercutters. So I'm familiar with the Hypercutters because they were my opponent last time, but I do see some things here that I did not have to deal with last week, like Mega Chimecho and Hisuian Zoroark, and Tinkaton. I don't think I brought Tinkaton against me either. And this regular Staraptor, right? I know this because nobody drafted Mega Staraptor in my pool, and I was curious to see what would happen if somebody did. But also, I think the Staraptor... I've been speculating all along that it enables Trick Room setup with Final Gambit, like I tried to do with Staraptor last season. And that's what this looks like to me. It looks like Chimecho Trick Room. They have a bunch of tricks up their sleeve to make sure the Trick Room goes up. Maybe they can do some other kind of game plan with Pokemon like Staraptor, Zoroark, and Tinkaton. Certainly they can do some other kind of game plan with Melodic. Coil Melodic could be a threat if the opponent focuses too heavily on specifically stopping the Chimecho. The Chimecho can set up, it can set Trick Room, Sinistcha can set Trick Room. I think we know roughly what the Hypercutters are likely to want to do, but they could have a trick up their sleeve. There's a lot more flexibility here than you might think from the way I've been talking about it. On the Houndstones side, is it Mega Metagross? Is it Mega Scovillain? I don't remember. I think it's Mega Metagross. I'm not sure about the Scovillain. But they look like they have a bunch of fast threats. Well, they have a few fast threats, right? And then they have Hatterene, so they can take advantage of the opponent's Trick Room if it goes up, but Hatterene is just not that scary into Mega Chimecho and Tinkaton. Like, if the Hypercutters do go for a Trick Room game plan, I'm not sure Hatterene can stop it. Does Hatterene still get Mystical Fire? That could make a difference if it has that, but I'm not sure Hatterene is good here. Toxapex. Toxapex is probably their best Melodic answer, but it's really, really bad into Mega Chimecho, so that's kind of tricky as well. Their best Chimecho answer is probably Hydreigon. They can also pressure it with Mega Metagross and maybe like damage or just taunt from Aerodactyl. Taunt Aerodactyl, or taunt, yeah, mainly Aerodactyl could make a real difference here. But I don't know. There are a few different ways that the Houndstones can approach this, and a lot of their Pokemon look good against some parts of this matchup and bad against other parts, so I think there's not really much use speculating further. Let's just jump in and see what they do. Aerodactyl will lead here with Scovillain. You know what? I didn't consider that it might be Mega Aerodactyl, and I don't remember whether it is. Aerodactyl and Scovillain against Tinkaton and Chimecho. We see Unnerve. We see Chimecho Mega Evolve. The Fake Out into Aerodactyl, but Aerodactyl protects around that. And we see Scovillain just rip an Overheat into Chimecho immediately. Okay, there's a Chimecho answer that I didn't consider. I think probably the Fake Out goes into Aerodactyl there so that Aerodactyl can't taunt Chimecho. That makes sense to me. But then, yeah, there was nothing covering for Scovillain, just going straight for a big damage fire attack. And that was what happened, and Chimecho didn't take it. So that'll put the Hypercutters seemingly on the back foot for now, although Melodic can come in. Scovillain is at a -2 special attack after the Overheat, so if it's planned to threaten Melodic as a Grass-type attack, that's not great. On the other hand, Melodic would not love to take a Leech Seed, but we already know that Scovillain has switched out, so I guess that was not in the cards. But yeah, okay. Scovillain did just get to knock out Chimecho right away, but that did let Melodic in pretty freely, because Aerodactyl might not be very threatening into that, so the Hypercutters might have a solid backup plan here. Let's see how it goes. We see Hydreigon switching in on Tinkaton, which has to be kind of scary for Hydreigon. Aerodactyl goes straight for Tailwind, and then takes a Gigaton Hammer, goes down to its Focus Sash. Scald into Hydreigon, doesn't do a whole lot. We see Protect from Tinkaton. Melodic does get taunted, so it can't just win with Coil set up here. But it doesn't try to, it just knocks out Hydreigon with Alluring Voice after taking very little from a Heat Wave. Now Scovillain is back. Dual Wing Beat into Melodic, still not... They still don't seem to have much damage into Melodic until we do see the Leaf Storm from Scovillain. That knocks Melodic out. But now Aerodactyl's knocked out by Gigaton Hammer, and so Scovillain would love to overheat these other two Pokemon, but it can't switch out and reset the drops anymore. But Mega Metagross might be able to take them out. But maybe Sinistcha has a way to threaten Mega Metagross, like Shadow Ball or Scald, or gets a Machagacha Burn even. Metagross Mega Evolves. We see Rage Powder from Scovillain. We see a Shadow Claw. Interesting. Well, Tinkaton went for Protect. Shadow Claw into Sinistcha, but Sinistcha Bulkymon takes it reasonably well, and of course the Grass type is unaffected by the Rage Powder. So we do see a Shadow Ball into Metagross. It stops just short of the KO though. And now Metagross will Protect. We see another Rage, or we see a Rage Powder on the other side this time. Metagross avoids the Gigaton Hammer. Have we seen all of Tinkaton's moves? No, there's still one that we haven't seen. So it could still have Play Rough or something. Scovillain goes for an Overheat. That is enough to take out Sinistcha after the Shadow Claw, and Tinkaton is alone now. I think it had better hope that it has another attack. It takes about 50% from a Shadow Claw, but then eats a Citrus Berry, and we do see Play Rough, but it's redirected into full HP Scovillain, and it misses. And Scovillain is super safe to click this Rage Powder. Takes a lot from a Gigaton Hammer, considering that's resisted, but it's not enough. Mega Metagross is able to clean this one up. So Scovillain put in a ton of work for the Houndstones in Game 1. Mostly just by clicking really strong attacks. How do you beat Mega Chimecho and Melodic? You have a Pokemon that can do massive damage instantly to both of them. Although it had to switch in, or it had to switch out that one time to get rid of the drop. And then because Scovillain was not really a priority target for the opponent with other offensively threatening Pokemon around, it was able to hang around at full HP and click Rage Powder in the endgame. So the Hypercutters are going to need a way to deal with Scovillain because it looked like a menace in Game 1. Let's see what happens in Game 2. Hydreigon leads with Scovillain against Staraptor and Chimecho. Is the Scovillain plan to just take it out with Staraptor? Chimecho will Mega Evolve. Scovillain protecting this time, not going straight for the Overheat. Avoids a Brave Bird from Staraptor. I guess it could have avoided a Final Gambit. I don't know the relative HP stats, but Staraptor just went for Brave Bird. But in theory, Scovillain could have avoided a Final Gambit while the Heat Wave for Hydreigon chips Staraptor down so that its Final Gambit is not as strong anymore. It also does a lot of damage to Chimecho, notably, but Chimecho does survive turn 1 this time. We see Life Orb on Hydreigon. No Trick Room. It just throws off a Dazzling Gleam, but it misses the KO on Hydreigon. Hydreigon holds on at 2%. The only thing here is We saw the Life Orb, so Hydreigon will faint as soon as it attacks something. So if Chimecho can just protect or switch, and Hydreigon will probably knock itself out. Staraptor going for Tailwind. No Trick Room here as Chimecho takes the KO on Hydreigon with the Dazzling Gleam, but it's still vulnerable to Scovillain, which maybe they thought would switch out, but it didn't. Scovillain's still here. Overheat takes out Chimecho. But was Chimecho and Tailwind the plan here, or do they have something else in the back? We see Hatterene come in now. And are the Houndstones going to be the ones to click Trick Room in this game? Their opponent has Tailwind up. We see Sinistra hit the field, but I mean, Sinistra's going to be outspeeding stuff in Tailwind as well. Scovillain switching out to Metagross. There's no Rage Powder to protect the Hatterene, although it wouldn't work on Sinistra anyway. Hatterene takes a lot from a Brave Bird. Still at relatively low HP after its Citrus Berry. Is it going to be Shadow Ball from Sinistra here? It is. That just takes Hatterene out. Metagross has hit the field, but hasn't gotten to do anything yet. Scovillain now is back. Sinistra switches out to Melodic. As a Bullet Punch from Mega Metagross takes out Staraptor, but Melodic comes in comfortably on an Overheat. It does get crit, but it's still pretty comfortable. And once again, there are not enough Pokemon left for Scovillain to switch out, so that is an unfortunate choice of attack for Scovillain. Of course, the Overheat was meant to hit Sinistra. If they'd read the switch and Leaf Stormed Melodic, they'd be in a stronger position, but Scovillain is pretty weakened now. It can still use Rage Powder to try to create openings for Metagross, but Melodic being healthy here could be a problem. We see a Taunt into Metagross, and Metagross just protects. We see Double Up into Metagross, but Sinistra avoids a -2 Overheat there. And now the Scovillain's going for Rage Powder, but we know Sinistra takes a Shadow Claw. They're pretty free to... I was going to say double into Scovillain and knock it out, but actually, Sinistra being unaffected by the Rage Powder just Shadow Balls Metagross for 90%. And we see Psychic Fangs do less than half to Melodic. Sinistra will drop to an Overheat, but Scovillain weakening itself further with that. I'm surprised that Melodic went for the KO on Scovillain there instead of Metagross, but maybe it just anticipated a Rage Powder. But if there's any way they win this, I mean, maybe the Metagross... You know what? Metagross wins with a crit here. So, I mean, I guess Scovillain could have won with a crit as well. I think it's still marginally more optimal to take out Metagross there, because Scovillain also can miss its attacks, which makes it marginally less likely to get the crit. But otherwise, it's kind of a wash. Will Metagross get the crit? Well, first we see a Protect from Melodic on a Psychic Fangs. It gets a bit of Leftovers recovery, but I don't think that matters here. Yeah, it was taking that Psychic Fangs either way, and it was not taking a crit, but there's no crit, and so Melodic is able to win the game with a Scald. And we're going to Game 3. The Hypercutters handled the Scovillain threat in a couple of ways here. One, they brought Staraptor, so they could threaten it with Brave Bird, but also they could set Tailwind and go turbo fast with Mega Chimecho. There's something you don't see too often. And two, that switch from Sinistra to Melodic, taking an Overheat and lowering Scovillain's special attack, made Scovillain pretty weak in the end game when its teammates were removed. So, do the Houndstones have the tools to get around that counterplay in Game 3? And will we be seeing any crazy reads here? Let's find out. Aerodactyl once again with Scovillain against Sinistra and Chimecho this time. You cannot redirect Scovillain's Overheat, but Chimecho's just going to protect turn 1. We see dual Wing Beat into not Sinistra, it's actually Zoroark. It takes a lot of damage from that, but it gets a Shadow Ball into Scovillain for also a lot of damage as Chimecho avoids the Overheat. Now we see Chimecho switch out to the real Sinistra. Hospitality on Zoroark, but Zoroark's still not going to take hits very well. We see Aerodactyl set Tailwind, and Scovillain goes for Overheat into Sinistra and just knocks it out. This time they switched out from a Fire Weakness to a Fire Weakness. They might not have brought Melodic to this game, although I would think they probably have with these three in front. But now Chimecho comes in with Scovillain weakened, so Scovillain will switch out to Toxapex. I wonder what Toxapex is here to do. Well, they lost to Melodic last game, and I did say that Toxapex is probably their best Melodic answer. I guess it's okay into Staraptor as well, depending on its set. But yeah, Toxapex is here. Zoroark switches out too. Sure enough, Melodic, which takes about 30, a little less than 30 from a dual Wing Beat. And now, finally, Mega Chimecho does click Trick Room. I've been anticipating it all 3 games, and it's finally here. With Tailwind on the other side, no less. We see Baneful Bunker from Toxapex, but Aerodactyl doesn't protect itself, gets chipped by a Dazzling Gleam, and then that'll break its Focus Sash, so it's knocked out by a Scald. Mega Metagross will come in here. Well, it doesn't Mega Evolve yet. It just protects. We see Encore from Chimecho locking Toxapex into Baneful Bunker. That's a good tech. As Metagross avoids Scald. Tailwind ends here, but Trick Room's still up for 2 more turns. Toxapex has to use Baneful Bunker. Metagross is locked into Protect now. Encore just going crazy for this Mega Chimecho. Scald does about a third to Metagross. No burn. We see Melodic switch out to Zoroark. It has to be Zoroark because Melodic did not just switch out into itself. As these two are still just stuck using Protect and Baneful Bunker. One of them could switch out for Scovillain, but that's not what we're seeing so far. But they do avoid the Dazzling Gleam from Chimecho. I guess Dazzling Gleam must be the only attack Chimecho has. Actually, we've seen all of its moves. Protect, Trick Room, Dazzling Gleam, and Encore. So yeah, it's not going to do a lot of damage to these two, but it's the only damage threat Chimecho has. But now Zoroark is back just as Trick Room ends. Toxapex will switch out now. Metagross will Mega Evolve, but it still has to use Protect. They couldn't switch both because the Aerodactyl already fainted, but the Protect, I think it's a double. It is a double. It does save Metagross from a Zoroark Shadow Ball. And Chimecho goes for Encore. Oh, did Toxapex Encore end last turn? It did. And then Toxapex was the one that switched. Interesting. But no Encore this time because Toxapex switched out, and now Metagross is freed from the Encore. It'll get a chance to attack before it can be Encored because Chimecho doesn't have Prankster and Trick Room isn't up anymore. Zoroark goes for Detect. Chimecho protects. Metagross goes for Shadow Claw into Zoroark. Zoroark is immune to that. Don't know if that's a misclick or something. Maybe they forgot that it's not the real Melodic, although it just used Shadow Ball last turn. Now Chimecho switches out to Melodic. We see Zoroark outspeed Mega Metagross and knock that out with a Shadow Ball. Scovillain just goes straight for a Leaf Storm and takes out Melodic, so they catch Melodic switching in this time. It is the same kind of situation as in Game 2, but this time they do go for the right attack. But Scovillain once again stuck on the field at -2, and it's partnered with Toxapex here. I don't know if Toxapex can do anything to this Mega Chimecho. Granted, Chimecho can't do a whole lot to this Toxapex either. Scovillain will protect here. Toxapex showing Infestation. Okay. That might be enough. But it has to take out Zoroark somehow. Hyper Voice will knock out Scovillain. And Toxapex doesn't take much from Dazzling Gleam. It could have Recover. The Infestation chip maybe is enough into Chimecho. Although it has to worry about Encore. But the Zoroark is the real thing here, right? Because Zoroark's faster. Toxapex doesn't have good damage into it as we see Infestation again. And we see the special defense drop, so that Dazzling Gleam is even going to hit a little bit more. A little bit harder with the single target damage now. Trick Room goes up. That takes away Zoroark's speed advantage, but it really doesn't look like Toxapex has good damage into Zoroark. Toxapex showing Haze, but doesn't really do anything here, and it gets locked into Haze, so it'd be pretty unfortunate if it had to keep clicking that over and over, but it also gets knocked out by Zoroark. And I don't think we saw the Hisuian Zoroark until Game 3, so I talked about the Staraptor adjustment from the Hypercutters in Game 2, but then they did not get passive there. Instead, yeah, Zoroark able to just outspeed things and clean up pretty much against the offensive threats from the Houndstones trying to do their thing again. So the Houndstones had a solid game plan in Game 1, but they didn't find the right answers the rest of the way, and the Hypercutters do end up taking this one. And now we jump to the other side, to Pool A, where we start with the Grampas taking on the Minty Meloetta. Okay, I actually stopped for a food break right after saying that, but anyway, the Grampas have brought Kingambit, Sableye. I paused there because I was trying to remember if it's Mega Sableye on this team, but I don't think it is. Delphox, Vivillon, Sneasler, and Torterra, so it looks like no Trick Room stuff this time because Sableye, as we know, does not get Trick Room, although Delphox probably does. But anyway, the Minty Meloetta, Ganium, Basculegion, Meowstic, Fire Tauros, Gliscor, Goldango. I think it's Mega Male Meowstic on this team, but maybe I'm misremembering which team has that, and surely it's Mega Meganium. The Grampas look like they... Pokemon like Sneasler or Delphox suggest to me that they want to outspeed things and sweep. Kingambit can fit the sweeping part of that vision at least. I'm not sure what Torterra is here to do. And on the Meloetta side, they got a bunch of strong Pokemon with a bunch of type synergy, but it's a mystery to me, so let's just jump in and find out. I mean, the Meloetta have been saying all along their plan is to counter other people's plans. So, against the Grampas, well, that team focused on Trick Room with Mega Ampharos last time. We could see Meowstic trying to shut down a Trick Room game plan again, but it doesn't look like it's going to be a Trick Room game plan this time, so... Yeah, they have fast Pokemon on the Grampas side, and they also have Vivian, potentially giving them some more speed control. Maybe we see Trick Room from the Meloetta. Who knows? Okay, Sableye and Delphox lead against Meowstic and Gliscor. Delphox immediately Mega Evolves, but gets faked out by Meowstic. Sableye fake out goes into Meowstic, but Meowstic being faster than Sableye, it's already made its move. It won't flinch, and now Gliscor gets a chance to do something, although Delphox has just made itself immune to a possible Earthquake. Or probably not Earthquake next to Meowstic, but like ground move, high horsepower. But actually, Gliscor just sets Tailwind, so as much as I've talked about the Grampas probably trying to want to go fast this week, it's the Meloetta who get Tailwind up right now. And that puts them in the driver's seat a little bit. Gliscor probably has some ways to threaten Delphox. First, we see Meowstic throw a Thunder Wave into Delphox, which is interesting when they just got Tailwind up, but I guess Tailwind's not going to last forever. But then Sableye shows the Prankster Will-O-Wisp, connects with Gliscor, burning it, and Delphox takes very little from a dual Wing Beat after... Gliscor gets burned. And Delphox, yeah, pretty well positioned here. Not going to love being paralyzed, but it goes for a nasty plot because there's not a whole lot threatening it if Gliscor doesn't have something better than dual Wing Beat, and also with Gliscor burned, it's not like Meowstic is an offensive threat to Delphox. So it is pretty free to set up there, despite the opponent's Tailwind. We see Rain Dance from Meowstic, but then we see Sunny Day from Sableye. Sableye takes very little from the burnt dual Wing Beat. Good tech by the Meloetta trying to turn the weather unfavorably against Delphox, but the Grampas anticipating that, just clicking Sunny Day same turn is pretty cool to see. The Meloetta are already down 2 Pokemon. Now they bring in Meganium and Basculegion. Meganium looking super vulnerable against this Delphox, but Basculegion potentially able to threaten it, especially with Delphox paralyzed. That one more turn of Tailwind might... the fact that there is only one more turn might not be too important here. Meganium will Mega Evolve. We see Delphox protect. The Sableye still has that Prankster Will-O-Wisp. It burns Basculegion. Delphox avoids a Dazzling Gleam that probably wouldn't do a ton to it anyway, and Sableye showing the Roselli Berry, taking the hit before Last Respects goes into the Protect. And then what? Tailwind ends here. Delphox switches out, giving up its nasty plot. Delphox, again, being paralyzed means that getting out of the opponent's Tailwind is still only so helpful to it. But we actually see Vivian coming in, so a bit of a positional reset here from the Grampas. We see Sableye throw a Will-O-Wisp into Meganium. The burn attack nerf doesn't matter, but the chip damage might be nice. We see Last Respects into Vivian, but with the burn it doesn't KO. We see this Life Orb Basculegion. Now Sableye manages to burn Meganium. Vivian now setting Tailwind. So Meganium will take 2 KOs with Dazzling Gleam, but the Grampas are clearly setting up for an endgame position that's more favorable to them. Delphox still paralyzed, but now in Tailwind, and they show that the last Pokemon is King Gambit, so that's immediately threatening the Basculegion with a Sucker Punch. Meganium, of course, can threaten King Gambit with Weather Ball, but Delphox can probably take out Meganium, especially in the sun, as long as it doesn't get fully paralyzed before the Weather Ball comes out. Let's see, Meganium will protect here, but that gives Basculegion still no cover against the Sucker Punch. Basculegion is just knocked out. Delphox actually is fully paralyzed. Meganium misses his chance there to take out the King Gambit, but I think it loses to Delphox at this point anyway. And sure enough, even without the sun, and even without the nasty plot boost, Delphox just knocks out Meganium from there with the Heat Wave after minimal burn damage. So the Minty Meloetta brought some interesting techs this week. I especially like the Rain Dance play on the Meowstic, which probably was meant... It could even be Swift Swim Basculegion, right? I don't know the calcs to check whether it's adaptability. So probably was meant to set up for that Pokemon to go crazy with or without Swift Swim, right? Its water attacks would still be boosted. And of course, Mega Meganium doesn't mind being in rain because of its Mega Soul ability. But Meowstic clicked Rain Dance at just the wrong time. And the Sableye, I think, really made the difference here because it also was able to burn things, which prevented anything from very seriously threatening Delphox. But clicking Sunny Day when it did was also cool to see. Let's see if the Meloetta have any more tricks up their sleeve in Game 2, though. We get Delphox and Sneasler this time against Meowstic and Gholdengo. Delphox Mega Evolves as Gholdengo just goes for Protect. Delphox gets faked out again. Sneasler not going for Fake Out, just going for Throat Chop into Goldango, but hitting the Protect, so Goldango switches out now. We see that Blazebreed Tauros comes in. Haven't checked for an Intimidate yet, so haven't checked for a White Herb on Sneasler. Let's see if we get that. Intimidate, yes. White Herb, yes. So Sneasler now gets the boost from Unburdened, presumably. Delphox protects and avoids the Thunder Wave this time, but Sneasler Throat Chop is not one-shotting this Meowstic. We see leftovers on the Meowstic, which surely we saw last game, but I sometimes miss that. So definitely this is not the team with Mega Meowstic. We see Sableye switch in for Delphox, so Sableye looking to be disruptive once again, as nothing on the field looks super threatening into it. Comes in on the Prankster Thunder Wave, immune to that because of its Dark typing. Tauros protects and avoids a Dire Claw. The Grampas definitely seem like they have more pressure on the opponent still, as Sableye fakes out the Tauros and Sneasler actually just gets the KO on Meowstic with the Throat Chop. So Meowstic not accomplishing a whole lot this time and notably not paralyzing the Delphox. So Goldango can come in here, yes, but Goldango and Tauros are both very vulnerable to Delphox at this point. I don't know what, I guess the only thing in the potentially in the back that's not vulnerable to Delphox is Basculegion, because we already saw that Gliscor doesn't have a good way to deal with it. Granted, Gliscor was burned last game, but that dual wing beat still does, what, like 40% if it hits? And of course, with Mega Delphox having Levitate, Gliscor can't hit it with a ground attack. So the Meloetta are probably in pretty serious trouble unless they have Basculegion in the back. But even in this position, we know that the Sneasler has Throat Chop to threaten Goldango. Let's see what they can do. At least neither of these Pokemon can be burned, so Sableye can't quite play like it did last game. Instead, Sableye just switches out to Kingambit. We do see the Throat Chop into Goldango for a bunch of damage. Goldango goes straight from Make It Rain. Does a lot to Sneasler, not so much to Kingambit, doesn't KO anything, but Tauros covers the Kingambit switch in with a Fire-type Raging Bull and knocks Kingambit out. So Kingambit basically just sacked itself there. And that might have been the Grandpa's best answer to Basculegion, especially with Sneasler taking a bunch of damage. It could be threatened by an Aqua Jet, so the Meloetta, if they have Basculegion in the back, have probably just found a way back into this game, but let's see. Delphox is here now. It is Basculegion in the back. It just switches in for Goldango as Delphox protects, so a little bit of a brave switch there as Basculegion, well, they do get punished for it after all because Sneasler lands a big Throat Chop into Basculegion. I think if you're the Meloetta, you probably have to let something go down here. I guess the problem is that Grampas are threatening to take 2 KOs this turn if they just like Psychic Tauros and Throat Chop Goldango. And then the question is, can Basculegion pull the game all the way back? And actually it probably can't because it's outsped by Delphox. And then it also takes a Throat Chop. Yeah, Basculegion was probably too slow to win this anyway, actually. I guess they had to try to make some kind of play, but switching out Dark Weakness for Dark Weakness opened up Basculegion to getting hit hard by that Throat Chop. They will Aqua Jet and knock out the Sneasler, but Life Orb Basculegion also now can only attack one more time. Delphox goes for a non-spread Expanding Force. Interesting tech. Bringing Expanding Force against the Meowstic, I guess, so that if you see manual Psychic Terrain from the opponent, you have an option to not Mega Evolve and get the spread Expanding Force. That's a cool idea, if it was something like that they were going for. Tauros is knocked out, Basculegion is not, but again, Basculegion will knock itself out the moment it attacks again. I guess the only thing is the Grampas have to preserve Delphox to beat Goldango. I mean, Delphox is probably not in range of Aqua Jet, right? It's at 93%. But they might have to... Oh, they can just Heat Wave. Basculegion's so low, they can just Heat Wave. Okay. I don't think there's a complicated decision to make here, I think. Yeah, Delphox takes an Aqua Jet. Basculegion knocks itself out with that. And we actually see Gravity... Whoa, hold on. We actually see Gravity from the Sableye, which makes a lot of sense here because that makes sure the Heat Wave hits. I think Delphox is going for Heat Wave. And then the one potential issue with that is if it misses, but Sableye showing Gravity, making sure that won't happen. Also, it also means that they have a way to use Spread Expanding Force even if Delphox is Mega Evolved. So yeah, I don't think there's Psychic Terrain anywhere on the Grandpa's team, unless Sableye can learn it. I don't know. I don't have a good read on what can learn it, but they did have an option to do Size Spam at least into an opponent's Psychic Terrain with the Delphox here. But then Goldango outspeeds Mega Delphox. Has it been Scarf Goldango all this time? I think we've only seen it click Make It Rain. Oh, and it did outspeed its partner Tauros, so I guess I should have caught that earlier. It was still slower than Sneasler because Sneasler had the Unburden. But yeah, probably should have realized a couple turns ago that Goldango was Choice Scarfed. It gets off a Make It Rain here, but it narrowly misses the KO on Delphox, even after Delphox took that Life Orb Aqua Jet. And there's the Heat Wave for the win. So the Meloetta, this was a closer game. The Meloetta had a real chance here. I'm trying to think. Goldengo, when it switched out, had already used Make It Rain, right? So yeah, just even with the Scarf, just staying in and attacking maybe doesn't work, but I don't know if the Meloetta had a way to get back into this game, but I think they gave it their all for sure. They definitely made things interesting. I mean, I guess just like high roll or crit the Delphox is how they get back in. But the Grampas had just the right tax in each game to make this make the final box score outcome of this set not as close as some of the games could have been. Anyway, we jump now to the East Coast Espurr taking on Pendragon United. The Espurr, is that what Shiny Toxapex looks like? I haven't seen that in a while, I'd forgotten. The Espurr have a bunch of bulky looking Pokemon, that's for sure. Toxapex, Mamoswine, Tyranitar. No Annihilate once again, which is, well, you expect it from the East Coast Espurr at this point. Also, Annihilate's probably not great here into like Mega Dragonite and Mega Mawile. I think they both are Mega. So what do the Espurr do here? Well, Mamoswine is a good offensive threat into some of the main threats on the other side. Has to watch out for, I would say, Clawitzer and Trick Room, but I don't see a Trick Room setter on the other side. So let's say it has to watch out for Politoed to an extent, but Mamoswine looks like it could just go crazy here. Tyranitar can take away the opponent's rain, and Mamoswine, of course, doesn't mind the sand. Fan Form Rotom can also help to keep the water types in check, or maybe like break Multiscale on Dragonite, maybe burn Mawile. There are a few things that it can do, but notably threatening the water types stands out to me. Or they can slow the game way down with Pokemon like Klefki and Toxapex. And of course, Scovillain can give redirection support or Leaf Storm things like we've seen already. On the Pendragon United side, well, I guess Pikachu gives them some cover against the Rotom. Yeah, they definitely brought their Annihilate answers, only to not face Annihilate. They have some ways to threaten Tyranitar, so they can probably get weather control from some things here. But it's going to be tricky for them to deal with both Mamoswine and Toxapex, two very different threats that kind of call for different answers. We'll see what answers they have. So we get Klefki and Scovillain. That's all those possible combinations of threats that I talked about, and this one was not one of them. We get Emboar and Dragonite on the other side, so I don't usually speculate on what people are trying to do in the lead position, but I guess, I don't know. It's flexible offensive pressure from Pendragon United, right? Trying to have some kind of answer to the main threats the opponent can throw at them. But Klefki and Scovillain, who knows what they're going to do? Let's find out. It's Mega Scovillain. I am still having some trouble sometimes remembering what Megas people have. Okay, so it can burn things. But there's not a lot of physical offense on the other side. It does obviously kind of just counter Mega Mawile. Mega Mawile is terrible to Mega Scovillain. So that also could have warped the game plans a little bit on the other side. I don't know if you can bring Mega Mawile. Certainly not very comfortably when you see Scovillain and Mamoswine on the other side. We'll see if these Pokemon mind being burned, though. We see Rage Powder, we see Heat Wave from Emboar, missing Klefki and doing 30% to Scovillain. Emboar, of course, can't be burned. Also, it just showed a special attack. Maybe it's Special Emboar. Now Dragonite will Mega Evolve. We see Light Screen from Klefki, covering somewhat for the Heat Wave. Heat Wave missing Scovillain this time and showing the Aqua Berry on Klefki. So Klefki takes that reasonably well. Emboar now cozy in that Tailwind. We see a Flamethrower into Dragonite to break the Multiscale. It looks like Pendragon United have prepared for the Scovillain largely by bringing special attackers. We may not see Mawile in this game, I suspect. Now we get Politoed switching in. Is Dragonite going to go for a Hurricane? It does, but Scovillain protects around that. Klefki gets a Dazzling Gleam, which chips Dragonite a little bit. It's not amazing damage, but Dragonite will switch out now to Emboar as we see Tyranitar come in for Scovillain. So I wonder whether Emboar is here specifically to threaten Tyranitar if it tries to get rid of the rain, which is exactly what it just did. We see Earth Power from Politoed into Klefki, but that Light Screen I mean, I guess if you have Mega Scoville, your opponents are incentivized to load up on special attackers. Light Screen is a pretty powerful bring for the Espurr. We see that here as Klefki takes that Earth Power pretty well. It's not in range of the next one. Dazzling Gleam still just chipping things down. And so is the Sand now. Another Earth Power. Klefki does take it. Emboar goes for Close Combat into Tyranitar, so it's mixed Emboar. Makes sense. Again, it can't be burned. Tyranitar, though, shows the Chople Berry. It still takes 80%, but it's not knocked out. And Emboar lowers its defenses ahead of the next Dazzling Gleam. And Tyranitar gets 2 KOs with Rock Slide. So the East Coast Espurr setting themselves up pretty comfortably here. Like I said, well, also Klefki's immune to the sand damage, right? So sitting comfortably on the field, chipping opponents down with the sand, using Mega Scoville to scare off physical attackers, and then setting Light Screen to deal with special attackers, and that sand damage is just wearing things down over time, along with the spread damage, which is the thing I actually meant to say just now. The spread damage from this Klefki clicking 4 Dazzling Gleams so far, and now Tyranitar Rock Slide. The Espurr is showing another layer to their team that perhaps I missed when I was so focused on the Annihilate stuff right after the draft. Pikachu is the last Pokemon for Pendragon United. We see Mega Dragonite, of course, also returning to the field. Klefki takes Pikachu's Fake Out. Dragonite just throws off a Blizzard in the Sandstorm. It misses. It knocks out Klefki, but it misses Tyranitar. Dragonite does, though, take the Rock Slide, so it'll get another chance to do that again if it wants. And now the Light Screen is gone. Scoville is here. Rage Powder redirects a Nuzzle from Pikachu. Pikachu will do 5%, paralyze Scoville, get burned itself. Dragonite does just keep going for Blizzard, but it misses Tyranitar again, and Dragonite gets burned, and along with the sand damage, that's going to knock it out. Meanwhile, Tyranitar knocks out Pikachu. Tyranitar finishes the game at 20%. Imagine what could have happened if those 2 Blizzards had connected, but instead, neither one connected. And so the East Coast Espurr kind of coast to victory in Game 1, and we'll see what Pendragon United have to break through this in Game 2, but it's hard for sure. I mean, maybe the Clawitzer can do something in Game 2, because we've seen that Klefki can't run a Water Resist Berry anyway, and can't benefit from it. We know that Tyranitar doesn't have the Pasho Berry because there's a Chople Berry. We know that Klefki has the Occa Berry, so Emboar's not as threatening into it anymore. Maybe they need Clawitzer to come in and take some KOs. It feels like the answer probably can't be Mega Mawile, because that's just so afraid of Mega Scoville. But then I wouldn't be surprised to see the Espurr bring Toxapex, honestly, to this game, so that they can shut down Clawitzer if it does try to present itself as a threat. So this feels pretty favorable to the Espurr, because it's hard to find adjustments from the other side that they can't easily answer. But let's see. We get Klefki and Scoville again, now against, yes, Clawitzer and Politoed. That means the rain is going up immediately. If Tyranitar is in the back, it can change that. But probably still won't love taking a Mega Launcher boosted Water Pulse. We know it can take an Aura Sphere, thanks to Chople Berry, but yeah, that Water Pulse is pretty threatening. We see Scoville Mega Evolve. We see Light Screen again. Politoed Earth Power into Klefki, and Muddy Water from Clawitzer. Chipping down both of these Pokemon. Pendragon United throwing off the early spread damage this time, but, well, forget anything I said about the Toxapex being here to shut down the Clawitzer, as Mega Scoville just gets to knock it out with a Giga Drain. And that was the Pokemon that I thought maybe could break through for Pendragon United, so let's see what happens. Dragonite comes in and Mega Evolves. They do get rid of the Klefki much more quickly this time. The Muddy Water is very helpful in that respect, but Mega Scoville just got back to full off of that Giga Drain, so I wonder how much it's going to take from the Earthquake or the Hurricane that's probably coming out here. And it takes a lot, but it's not KO'd. The burn damage will break Multiscale. Scoville gets a bunch back from Giga Drain into Politoed, but not enough to take a Hurricane. But what do you know? Toxapex is here. Politoed switching out to Emboar. And what is Toxapex even really threatened by here except Mawile and Pikachu? And again, Mawile is, I think, probably scared off by Scoville, and if not, is going to have a hard time dealing with Scoville. So Toxapex, also very hard to break here. Maybe it's like Wild Charge Emboar. Does Emboar get Supercell Slam? I don't know. Scoville protects and avoids a Hurricane. We see Infestation into Emboar. And then Hurricane into Toxapex, chipping it down some. Emboar not showing any Wild Charge or Supercell Slam so far. Just taking out Scoville with Close Combat. Emboar can't be burned, but most of the useful burning in this game is already done. Toxapex, though, throwing off the rain-boosted Chilling Water into -1 Espurr, doing more than 50%, and Espurr can't switch out, and Espurr hasn't yet shown that it can threaten Toxapex. I guess Earthquake is another option on Espurr, but I'm not sure we're going to find out, because Mamoswine, the offensive threat, does come in here. Dragonite switches out to Politoed, as Mamoswine just protects here, avoids a close combat. I thought maybe that would create an opening for Toxapex to take out Espurr with another Chilling Water, but actually it's just Infestation into Politoed, so now Pendragon United can't switch the Dragonite back in. Rain ends, but these two Pokemon are both being worn down by the Infestation damage. Ice Shard takes out -1 Espurr, no problem. We see Life Orb on the Mamoswine. We see an Earth Power not do a ton of damage to Toxapex. Toxapex easily recovering it off and getting back to full as the Infestation chip takes out Politoed. And we just get a forfeit here, as Mega Dragonite is not breaking through this, especially without Multiscale anymore. It probably just drops to Mamoswine. So the East Coast Espurr well, they have a super threatening draft as usual. I think we still have not seen the Annihilate yet, but it's really showing the strength of this combination of Pokemon, as between Toxapex, Klefki, Scovillain, Tyranitar, they have so many ways to shut down whatever an opponent wants to throw at them. And Pendragon United was not able to find a solution here. So the Espurr take the 2-0 win. Not a whole lot going on in chat to talk about here. Not really supposed to forfeit in draft play just for stat keeping reasons, but it happens once in a while. Next, we have the Dapper Digletts. Why did I blank for a second on the name of this team? The Dapper Digletts, yep, I got it right, taking on the Poblano Ho-Ho Peppers. The Digletts, we know they have Pelipper and Mega Swampert. That aside, they've brought two bulky steel types that I imagine are here to help them deal with the Mega Metagross on the other side. And then, I don't know, they got strong Pokemon. I guess Slowbro can set Trick Room for Aegislash, Steelix, and maybe non-Rain Swampert if they want. And Cleavor is a good Pokemon. Well, it's strong at least. On the Pepper side, Mega Metagross and a bunch of things that complement Mega Metagross. You can heal it and give redirection support with Sinistcha, intimidate things like Aegislash with Scrafty. Scrafty also can threaten Aegislash and Steelix with its super effective typing into them, although I guess it has to watch out for King's Shield. Grimmsnarl can do screens and Parting Shot and stuff, and yeah, some of the main obvious threats, especially the bulky steel types on the other side, can be threatened by Primarina and Armarouge. Sinistcha and Primarina also give them some amount of cover into the opponent's rain mode, but yeah, let's see exactly how they want to play this. Also intimidate Scrafty to intimidate the Swampert. We get Grimmsnarl and Metagross leading against Swampert and Aegislash. Metagross will Mega Evolve right away. We see Reflect from the Grimmsnarl, just a Shadow Claw into Aegislash. No fear whatsoever of a turn 1 King's Shield, although I'm not really sure why turn 1 King's Shield would be the play. Aegislash probably wants to transform and attack. First, it stays in Shield form. Still takes a lot of damage from that Shadow Claw, though. Swampert just flip turns out against Metagross, chipping that down a little bit, bringing Pelipper in. Pelipper sets up the rain, but Swampert is not on the field. Instead, Aegislash probably going to transform and attack right now, but what attack will it be? Will it be a Shadow Ball that's not weakened by the Reflect, or maybe a Poltergeist that is weakened by the Reflect? It's Poltergeist. It still does a lot, but thanks to the Reflect, Metagross holds on. But Aegislash could threaten it with Shadow Sneak now. We don't see that this turn, though. Instead, we see a King's Shield. Grimmsnarl goes for Parting Shot into Pelipper, bringing Sinistcha in, giving Metagross some recovery. I guess that Parting Shot would come out before a Shadow Sneak, so yeah, probably the right play for the Aegislash to King's Shield there. Good call by the Digletts. As the Shadow Claw goes into King's Shield, so Metagross will go down to -1 attack, but Pelipper's attacking stats are also weakened, and Metagross does take a Hurricane, although it then gets confused by it. Okay, Metagross now switching out to Grimmsnarl. The Pepper's repositioning a little bit, but Pelipper, -1 special attack, no problem. Crits Sinistcha with a Hurricane and just knocks it out. And Aegislash transforms again, goes for the Poltergeist into the Metagross slot. Doesn't do too much to Grimmsnarl. Metagross gets back in now in the other slot without the attack drop, but Aegislash goes for King's Shield again. Metagross, not fooled, bullet punching the Pelipper. I guess just trying to break a Focus Sash and set up for something in the back to win, probably, before Metagross drops to a Weather Ball. We see Spirit Break into Pelipper. That'll do a bunch of damage and lower its special attack some more. Pelipper showing a Citrus Berry. We see Primarina come in with the rain still up, but not for long. Swampert switches in. Grimmsnarl finally puts up a light screen. Primarina gets one Water-type Hyper Voice boosted by the rain, and that's enough to knock out Aegislash and take away 2/3 of this Swampert. And Pelipper will come back in and put the rain right back up now. But Swampert is... Well, okay, last two Pokemon on both sides. Yeah, Swampert could Mega Evolve and Earthquake or something. But I don't know if it has the damage to get through this, especially because Grimmsnarl can Parting Shot it. It does Mega. We don't see a Parting Shot, we just see a Wave Crash that knocks out the Grimmsnarl. Swampert almost knocked out by the recoil, but not quite. We see Pelipper Hurricane into Primarina. That could have confused. I tried to pause to have some suspense about whether it would confuse, but I was too slow. No confusion. Swampert's taken out by an Energy Ball. Primarina showing that move in a position where it wasn't really necessary to reveal it, but I guess that covers for Pelipper clicking Wide Guard to stop Hyper Voice, so I guess it's a little bit safer. Depending on the rest of their moves, a little bit safer to win the game immediately in front of them, which is still a valuable thing to do. And then, my bad, I think I said both sides were on their last two Pokemon. I forgot that the Digletts had another one. Galarian Slowbro is here, so that can probably deal with Primarina, although... I mean, the Hyper Voice is going to hurt, but Slowbro's at full. Also, it could get a Quick Draw activation. It doesn't. Another Hurricane into Primarina, no confusion, but yeah, Slowbro takes a lot from the Hyper Voice, but doesn't knock it out from full. And Shell Sidearm finishes off the Primarina. So... what is there to say going into Game 2? I don't know. The Peppers let their Mega Metagross take a lot of damage early in this game, and then they didn't quite have enough offense in the back to make up for losing Metagross in the way that they did, especially with the Bullet Punch into Pelipper, which, again, looked like breaking a potential Focus Sash. Now they know that it doesn't have a Focus Sash, but doing that at the time to set up for Primarina to sweep, but Primarina wasn't quite up to the job with Galarian Slowbro in the back, so let's see if they can protect their Mega Metagross somewhat better in Game 2. That might be the difference here, or maybe they just have a different plan. We'll see. We get Primarina leading this time with Grimmsnarl against Steelix and Slowbro. So Slowbro is happy to see these two Fairy types across from it. Steelix probably a little bit afraid of Primarina. Just goes for Wide Guard, though. Okay, yeah, that'll stop a Hyper Voice. We see Light Screen from the Grimmsnarl, but here's the thing. Shell Sidearm. If I understand it correctly, it works like Terrastalized Terra Blast or Photon Geyser. It does a check. It's physical or special depending on which one will do more damage. So it checks that, and then it determines the property of the move. So that Light Screen is, I think, not going to significantly weaken a Shell Sidearm. I mean, unless the Slowbro is like heavily trained in special attack and doesn't want it to be physical or something like that. But into Primarina, that seems unlikely. But yeah, they do stop the Hyper Voice, and they actually just set Trick Room with Slowbro, so no Shell Sidearm immediately. Grimmsnarl now gets a chance to reflect. We do see a Shell Sidearm now, but hey, it's susceptible to both screens at this point. Whatever it just did, I don't know if Shell Sidearm is always the same animation on Showdown, or if that was a physical one signaled by Slowbro crossing the field. I think it would be more likely physical in a Primarina anyway, because I think that is more special bulk, right? But anyway, it does about 2/3. And Steelix is still on the field. It goes for high horsepower into Primarina, and it does get the KO. Now Scrafty comes in. It can intimidate these two. We see Quick Draw activate. Slowbro's the slowest Pokemon on the field anyway. I don't know why I'm getting excited about that. It made no difference. Scrafty Mega evolves and intimidates them again. So Steelix is at -2. Again, for Slowbro's purposes, we don't know what other attacks it might have, but for Shell Sidearm, that's just going to make it special. Maybe I'll find out about the animation. Instead, actually, we see Slowbro go for Focus Blast into Scrafty, but it misses. Steelix Body Press, okay, not bothered about the attack drops. That could have been a strong double up. The Body Press did a fair bit, but the Focus Blast didn't uphold its end of the bargain. Well, it's Focus Blast. It did pretty much what is generally expected of it. Spirit Break now into Slowbro, so the Pepper's throwing a whole bunch of damage mitigation at this thing, but then actually they just knock it out with Mega Scrafty knockoff. We see that Slowbro's holding an Expert Belt. Now Swampert comes in. I try to use Focus Blast one time. Yeah, well, there's a reason people call it a different name that isn't Focus Blast sometimes. We see Pelipper coming in. I'm guessing Swampert is not going to Mega Evolve while Trick Room is still up, but Pelipper still gives it a power boost on its Wave Crash by setting up the rain. We see Parting Shot. It's into the Steelix slot, so it's into Pelipper. So Swampert gets a free, not Wave Crash. Sinistcha comes in and heals Scrafty, but it's actually Flip Turn on Swampert. Maybe trying to just get Steelix in with room to do some damage while the Trick Room is still up, and then after Trick Room, get Swampert back in and Mega Evolve. This does also scout for Grass-type attacks. We see that Scrafty has Trailblaze. That does boost its speed for when the Trick Room is gone. We see now Protect on Sinistcha. Steelix going for Dragon Dance. Alright, Steelix might be going for the sweep, actually, but it's going to take a bunch from Scrafty. Drain Punch. I mean, Steelix has boosted its speed, but Trick Room's over. Scrafty has also boosted its speed. Sinistcha's here. It can maybe redirect an attack. Also, it's a Steelix. Even at +1, how hard does it hit? So I don't think I'm a big believer in this. But maybe it can do something before Swampert comes back in, but I think it's probably just going to get knocked out by Drain Punch here. We see Sinistcha switch out to Grimmsnarl. We do see Drain Punch knock out the Steelix. Yep. So not really accomplishing anything with that Dragon Dance. Grimmsnarl only takes 20% from a -1 Hurricane behind Light Screen. And Swampert is here now with 2 more turns of rain, but Grimmsnarl can again just click Parting Shot. It's Parting Shot into Pelipper again. They really have no fear at all of the Swampert. I guess they know they can threaten it with Trailblaze and also with Sinistcha. Earthquake does not a whole lot through the screens. Trailblaze does 60% to Swampert and gets Scrafty to +2 speed. And Swampert Knockoff also not doing a whole lot to Sinistcha. Those screens are putting in a lot of work, I think, for the Peppers. And probably just their Pokemon are bulky. Another Trailblaze takes out Swampert. Scrafty, behind the light screen, survives a Hurricane but gets confused. But now Sinistcha gets to go for Matcha Gotcha. Does a bunch of damage. Pelipper's stuck on the field at what, -2? And it's very safe Rage Powder knockoff as Scrafty completes the sweep. It's a little bit anticlimactic when there's no Showdown model or even sprite from Mega Scrafty, and so like a broken image just took all those KOs. That's a bit unfortunate, but did Scrafty get all 4 KOs? I think it did. Knockoff into Slowbro. Yeah. Alright, Scrafty just swept. We'll find out now what the Digletts have for that. Maybe the answer is to hit their Focus Blast this time. Or get some good luck with Hurricane. Because like Aegislash is vulnerable to Scrafty. It's hard really to see what Kleavor does to it. Well, let's find out. Grimmsnarl and Armarouge now. Okay, we haven't seen that yet. Against Swampert and Pelipper lead. So the rain stuff going up immediately. Swampert just going straight for the Mega Evolution. Armarouge went before Swampert. Grimmsnarl says Reflect. I wonder what Swampert is going for. Might just be like Wave Crash and Armarouge. But especially because Earthquake is a little bit risky maybe when they have Wide Guard, although Wide Guard would be pretty passive for them here. But we might not be about to find out because Armarouge just outsped Swampert in rain and went for Energy Ball and knocked it out. Okay, don't know what Swampert went for. Armarouge, though, takes 70% back from a Hurricane. And now Aegislash is here. And yeah, it's got to be Scarf Armarouge, right? So it's locked into Energy Ball. It's not immediately threatening Aegislash. It just goes for an Energy Ball into Pelipper instead. Then it's taken out by a Hurricane. So Armarouge got rid of Swampert, but basically it traded itself for Swampert and like, well, 43% of Pelipper. We'll see if that's worth it. Scrafty coming in is interesting here because Aegislash is set up with a Swords Dance. Aegislash could be carrying like Sacred Sword. And it'll be outsped by Scrafty, so it'll take hits in shield form, and it can King's Shield to fish for the attack drop. So I know I said that Scrafty had an advantage against Aegislash, but especially with Aegislash at +1, I guess when Scrafty Mega Evolves and gets a second Intimidate, the Swords Dance will be completely gone. But even still, this is not necessarily simple for the Peppers. There's the Intimidate, there's the Mega, there's the other Intimidate. It's King's Shield right away this time, which is not what they did before, so kind of a good mix-up there, but Scrafty goes for Trailblaze into Pelipper, chips it a little bit, makes it eat its berry, gets a speed boost. Pelipper shows Feather Dance. I don't think we've seen that yet. Pelipper sends Scrafty straight to -2 attack, while Aegislash Is it neutral? It was a +2. Those boosts are gone. But Scrafty is the one seeing its attack get dropped, even without taking the bait and attacking the King's Shield. Spirit Break will chip Pelipper and lower its special attack, but now Scrafty switches out to Sinistcha. Pelipper switches out to Slowbro, so Pelipper's not wasting time with weakened Hurricanes into Light Screen. Grimmsnarl will get a parting shot into Aegislash. If Aegislash attacks here with, say, a Poltergeist into Sinistcha, it's a -1 attack. Does it do that, or does it just go for a Swords Dance, knowing it has an opening for that? Scrafty comes in. We see a white herb on the Aegislash. I guess that didn't activate earlier because of the Swords Dance. I'm thrown a little bit by the order of things, but okay. Parting Shot resolves. Scrafty comes in. Then because of the drop, the white herb activates, but then Scrafty gets an Intimidate into Aegislash, so in the end it's still -1. And it does just Swords Dance back up to +1, and Scrafty cannot do the Mega Evolve for a double Intimidate trick again. Slowbro just switching straight out to Pelipper. We see Protect on Sinistcha. We see Knock Off knocking out the Pelipper, so no more switching around for the Digletts as they go for Poltergeist into Sinistcha, but it's stopped by the Protect, so Aegislash not taking damage on Scrafty there, potentially leaving itself vulnerable, but of course it can always King Shield, and Scrafty can't safely attack it then, and Scrafty has no good Drain Punch targets. Slowbro is a double fighting resistance, and Aegislash is immune, so any damage they do get on Scrafty eventually is permanent. Maybe they don't have to rush it. Slowbro's here now. Yeah, we see Grimmsnarl come back in. Knockoff knocks Slowbro down to the invisible Focus Sash. It hangs on at 1%. Will it land the Focus Blast this time? First we see Poltergeist do a little bit of damage to Grimmsnarl. No Focus Blast yet. Trick Room first. Still another chance though, but Aegislash even more threatening in Trick Room than it already was without. It's just they're not gambling, I guess, on the Focus Blast this time. It's just Shell Sidearm into Scrafty. Does 20%. Oh, the log tells me whether it was physical or special. Or does it only tell me when it's physical? Did the text show up before? I don't remember. And then Aegislash, I talked about Sacred Sword, but it actually shows Brick Break, which makes sense against Grimmsnarl because it gets rid of the screens. But it does not get rid of the Scrafty. Scrafty holds on. And that means it has a chance to knock out Aegislash here. And probably win the game on the spot. Spirit Break takes out Slowbro. What does Scrafty go for? And the Poblano Ho-Ho Peppers take it. I thought Scrafty was going to have an uphill battle against Aegislash, but it just had to reposition a little bit, pivot around with, hey, some of the best pivoting Pokemon in the game. Grimmsnarl, Sinistcha. And we did not see the Primarina again in Game 3. We saw Armarouge bravely step up with the Scarf and trade itself for Swampert. But yeah, that paid off because it turned out the answer to beating Mega Scrafty was the Aegislash. It wasn't quite enough with Scrafty able to reposition until it got into just the right spot. Scrafty holding on at 4%, of course, part of the story there. I guess they had to risk a Focus Blast, but... and that could have done it, but they didn't go for that this time. And so Mega Scrafty went absolutely crazy this week. Got all 4 KOs in Game 2 and then also closed out Game 3. Looking like a menace. Now, we're back to YouTube for the Ontario Oguris and the Minnesota Marshadows. So, let's just go straight to preview. We see that the Marshadows have brought Vileplume, Toxicroak, Frostlass, Mega Frostlass, Metagross, Mega Blastoise, and Oranguru. And on the other side, we see Ditto, Floette, Incineroar, Melodic, Mousehold, Volcarona. So pretty similar stuff from the Oguris to last week. I'm guessing we'll see a lot of the same few Pokemon from the Oguris. That tends to be how they operate, and it makes sense for this specific draft of theirs, as a lot of their focus is on setting up their Mega Floette or their Melodic, and using strong support Pokemon like Incineroar and Mousehold to make that work. They're going to go for the same kind of thing here. I would think against Metagross, against Mega Metagross, and even regular Metagross, I mean, and 2 Poison types, and even Mega Frostlass. Probably better to focus on the Melodic than the Floette, but of course they can also bring both and figure out in the actual game what the best condition to work toward is. Vileplume, super interesting once again this week. We see it as the Occa Berry, so it can take a hit from Volcarona or Incineroar. And it's sort of uniquely threatening into both Floette and Melodic. I guess Toxicroak is also pretty threatening into both of them, because with Dry Skin it's immune to Water-type damage, and it offensively threatens Floette with the Poison typing. But yeah, a lot of possible Floette answers here. I suspect that Vileplume will be the key to dealing with the Melodic, whatever its set is. It's the most obviously threatening thing, but Toxicroak could be of help there as well. And otherwise, we're going to have to find out what the Marshadows game plans are. First, let's try to skip the Pokemon selection. And we'll find out soon. We don't have to sit and watch the menu hovering. So it looks like Toxicroak and Frostlass are being left behind for game 1. And here we go. So, what's it going to be? We get Incineroar and Floette against Blastoise and Oranguru. Is it the same Floette nickname as last time? I don't think it is. So Blastoise has a Shell Smash set with only Water-type attacks. And Oranguru has Rain Dance and Trick Room. Trick Room and Shell Smash don't mix very well, but you can take your pick for which one to focus on, I guess. We see Floette Mega Evolve immediately. I think Blastoise will be doing that as well. First, we have to see the Fairy Aura come out, of course. And there is the Blastoise Mega Evolution as well. And I think Blastoise went for Fake Out into Floette. But Incineroar gets the faster Fake Out. We'll make Blastoise flinch here. I think Oranguru gets Inner Focus, right? So it makes sense not to fake that out. Floette had a chance to attack and weaken a possible Water Spout, but instead just goes for Calm Mind here, as Oranguru sets up Trick Room. And so the speed control is up for the Marshadows, but Floette is already at +1 special defense, and also special attack, but like it'll take a Water Spout better is my point. But it looks like they're just going for Rain Dance and big damage, which does make sense here. And we'll see what the Oguris have for that. Floette at +1. Speaking from experience, when I played Mega Blastoise with my Mega Floette in the Grand Champions Festival, Floette at +1 might still not take the Water Spout as well as they'd like. We see Ditto come in and transform into Oranguru. I wonder what they're cooking with that. It's a way to try to reverse the Trick Room, I guess, but I don't think Ditto is taking this Water Spout especially well. Big Water Spout in the rain. Floette takes that better than I expected. I guess my Floette in the Grand Champions Festival was very physically bulky. And a big Dazzling Gleam back is going to significantly weaken any future Water Spouts from this Blastoise. Looks like Blastoise is thinking about switching out. We got to look at Vileplume's moves there, but I wasn't paying attention. We'll find out eventually. It looks like Vileplume is coming in, probably. Maybe not. Looks like they're reconsidering. They're thinking about Water Spout, Water Pulse, into Floette. No, going for a switch after all. As Oranguru, if the Water Spout were still strong, it would be pretty devastating to instruct that, but the Oguris have weakened the Water Spout. We see Blastoise switch out, but it's actually for Metagross, not Vileplume. We see Protect from the Floette. And Psychic Noise from Oranguru into Floette is stopped by the Protect. And we do see Ditto reverse the Trick Room. I guess that was what it was here to do. And it managed to do it. But Floette surely is threatened by this Metagross, right? Well, let's see. Especially because I think the Floette must have some significant special bulk. Maybe I'm wrong. Don't trust me on numbers in competitive Pokemon. But that's my suspicion. So Metagross is pretty threatening into it, is my point. We do see Floette switch out here, perhaps feeling pretty threatened, and we see Volcarona come in. Uh-oh, Volcarona, way better position to take a hit from Metagross and potentially burn it with Flame Body, and we see Incineroar come back in. Metagross has Clear Body, so the Intimidate won't work on it. But that does mean... Oh, and we do get confirmation of Inner Focus on Oranguru. I guess we'd already seen that, and I just missed it. But... yeah, the Metagross doesn't do a whole lot of damage to the Volcarona there. It will get instructed and move again. Also, yeah, the Ditto can come back in and transform into something else, like maybe Metagross, is what I meant to say there. Okay, 2 Iron Heads into Volcarona together do more than 50%, but we do see Flame Body activate and burn Metagross on the second one. That was the big risk, attacking with Metagross when Volcarona was coming in. So Volcarona also complementing the Floette setup game plan extremely well here. I think Metagross just went for Rock Slide, and Oranguru is trying to set the Trick Room back up. Oranguru, again, cannot be flinched by Incineroar, so that's not a way of denying this Trick Room, but like hitting it with a Dark-type attack might be. Also has a Cobra Berry, I don't remember its item. We see Heat Wave first from Volcarona, not doing a whole lot in the rain. We do see Darkest Lariat from Incineroar, and it will take out the Oranguru, so the Trick Room is not going back up here. I think Metagross went for Rock Slide, like I said. Sure enough, there it is. It's burned, but it'll knock out Volcarona, no problem. Just doesn't do a ton to Incineroar. And so now, what is the next play for each of these players? Looks like Blastoise is probably coming back for... yeah, is coming back for the Marshadows. We see Ditto coming back in for the Oguris and transforming into Metagross this time. I like how Ditto looks in this game. A funny, wiggly guy. And now it's a giant Steel-type threat. It is still at 12% HP, but I think it'll outspeed... well, depending on its item, it might speed tie with Metagross, but I think it'll outspeed Blastoise probably, right? Because Blastoise is meant to be used in Trick Room. Although it's also Shell Smash Blastoise, so I don't know the speed stat. They figured out some optimized thing, I'm sure. Metagross going for Hammer Arm into Incineroar from the looks of it. But Incineroar will go first, land a Darkest Lariat that knocks out Blastoise. I didn't see what Blastoise went for. My guess was Water Pulse into something. The Hammer Arm will come out, so the real Metagross moves before the Ditto. Probably means a speed tie. I.e. Ditto not using a Choice Scarf. I mean, it could be Iron Ball Ditto, like we saw in the other pool. But I'm not going to assume that right now. But they Hammer Arm back and forth. No KOs, but a bunch of Hammer Arm damage both ways. And now Vileplume comes in for the Marshadows. Incineroar and Ditto are pretty low, actually. So maybe Vileplume is Pollen Puff, Giga Drain, Toxic, and Protect. Maybe Vileplume can beat Floette if they can get some KOs here. Looks like it's going for Pollen Puff for the KO on Ditto for a neutral hit instead of the resisted Giga Drain. They're reconsidering. But yeah, I think Hammer Arm, Incineroar, Pollen Puff, Ditto makes sense to me. And then you just need Vileplume to beat Floette, which is not a given, right? Floette could be running... we've seen 3 of Floette's moves. Well... we've seen Calm Mind, Dazzling Gleam, and Protect. I wouldn't be very confident that the next move is... that the last move is Psychic. That would mean not having Moonblast, but it's possible. Floette comes in on the Hammer Arm. It's not going to take too much from that. So they're preserving Incineroar, so they can come back in now and get Fake Out Pressure. And the Metagross is low. Maybe it drops to Fake Out and burn damage. The Incineroar might win this game for the Oguris, because I'm not actually sure how the Marshadows can beat it. I'm not sure the Metagross... Metagross is also outsped by Floette and Incineroar. So I'm not sure it actually gets a chance to knock this Incineroar out. It's going to try, though, with a Hammer Arm. And Vileplume, my guess is Toxic into Floette, but it looks like they're considering their options here. I guess Pollen Puff into Metagross is also an option, actually. But I think Metagross gets knocked out by Floette, most likely, before Vileplume gets to do anything. Or maybe by Incineroar. We see Fake Out into Vileplume. Effect Spore puts Incineroar to sleep. That's super funny. And we do get confirmation that Floette's last move is Moonblast. It'll take out Metagross. If Floette had attacked Vileplume there, then Metagross could take out Incineroar. Incineroar being asleep maybe still opens up some possibilities for the Marshadows, but, I mean, well, yeah, I mean, it hasn't taken a sleep turn yet. So they have a little bit of time here. It has to at least stay asleep this turn. I think they went for the Toxic into Floette again. Can Vileplume pull this one back? Floette goes for the Calm Mind. Makes sense. Just get as much damage as you can. Because, I mean, the way Vileplume wants to play this endgame, well, I don't think it's shown Toxic yet, but... yeah, I guess if Vileplume were just attacking with a Poison-type attack, it would also make sense for Floette to boost its special defense. Maximizing damage also works, so Calm Mind is just pretty solid there. Vileplume can Protect now if it wants... or Pollen Puff Incineroar, try to get damage on that before it wakes up. That makes perfect sense as well. Because the Toxic damage is still not going to be all that much on Floette, so Protect now only does so much for you. Moonblast into Vileplume could get the special attack drop. It does a lot of damage at +1. No special attack drop, but Incineroar wakes up. And I believe the first opportunity, Flare Blitz is into Vileplume. Vileplume has an Occa Berry, but it's already taken a lot of damage from that Moonblast, and sure enough, it drops to the Flare Blitz. So, Floette switching in when it did, and Incineroar not being taken out by a high horsepower. Nope, Hammer Arm. Not being taken out by a Hammer Arm. Means that the Marshadows just don't have enough left in the end. I mean, that Floette was doing so much damage to Vileplume. I'm not sure Vileplume could have held on long enough anyway, but even just a double Protect could make a significant difference there. But the fact that there was a whole other Pokemon still on the other side made that Toxic endgame not really work. So, what do the Marshadows have now in Game 2? The Metagross getting burned by Volcarona was really unfortunate for them as well, but the Instruct Ironhead gave Volcarona 2 shots at that, and the second one was what got them. Looks like it's same Pokemon, different order this time from the Marshadows. Metagross, Oranguru lead with Blastoise and Volcarona in the back, so we'll see what Metagross wants to do here. Maybe the thing is, having Metagross on the field pressures a Floette lead immediately. Maybe Metagross wants to just go more aggressively for the Rock Slide this time. That threatens Volcarona and avoids Flame Body, but we'll see. It's Incineroar Floette again from the Oguris. Oranguru Metagross from the Marshadows. Nobody's going to be bothered by Intimidate here. Intimidate really not doing a whole lot in this set. But yeah, Floette being pressured by Metagross now. It's actually just Hammer Arm into Incineroar. They're not messing around with Rock Slide right now. Maybe Incineroar is a bit too threatening. And Oranguru going for Trick Room. Again, does not have to worry about being flinched. That means Metagross is a pretty good fake-out target for the Marshadow or the Oguris, but we'll see whether that's what they want to do. But if there is a fake-out, it will definitely be into Metagross, is my point. Floette, Mega Evolving, staying in. I guess if you know that Metagross is going to flinch, that's fine. So I am expecting a fake out at this point. No fake out, and just Moonblast into Oranguru. Maybe thinking the Metagross would Protect, actually, because the fake out was so viable. But they deny the Trick Room, actually, with the Moonblast Darkest Lariat double up. Okay. Alternative explanation, denying Trick Room was just worth it to them. Even if Metagross did a lot of damage back. And it ends up doing that damage not into Floette, but rather Incineroar. But I mean, Blastoise is still here. It still has the Shell Smash option. The problem is taking a lot of damage in the process, right? And not having a strong Water Spout anymore. If that's what they go for, and they don't have to. Blastoise can also fake something out, but I'm not 100% sure what that accomplishes here. Metagross is deciding its action right now. Looks like it's weighing what to attack. Going for the Rock Slide makes sense. You can damage Floette and take out Incineroar if it stays in, and cover for Volcarona switch in. Blastoise is just going straight for the Shell Smash. Looking to make some big plays after the Trick Room was denied. There's no Water Spout in Trick Room in Rain option this time. Blastoise does take a bunch from a Moonblast immediately. This Floette just playing with no fear at all. Incineroar doubles into the Blastoise with Darkest Lariat and knocks it out. I guess forget anything I said about Metagross pressuring Floette. Mega Floette has decided it just doesn't care. And it's knocking out Metagross. It's playing as straightforwardly as possible, knocking out Metagross's teammates while Metagross just keeps not using Iron Head. The Rock Slide does take out Incineroar, does some chip to Floette, but yeah, the Marshadows are pretty far behind just because Floette decided it doesn't care and is just going to blast things. It is now Vileplume and Metagross left, but that kind of means Floette has done its job, right? It's taken out the Pokemon that it threatens already. And it's kind of expendable against these two. More on Volcarona to try to win this game. So Floette not going to be punished at all for just hanging around on the field in the face of danger. Really playing like it knows that it's immortal after 3,000 years on this planet. Oguris taking a bit of time with this move. We just see a Moonblast again, this time into Vileplume. Doesn't do as much without the Calm Mind boost, but that's still some good damage. And then Volcarona moves next. We see the Occa Berry on the Vileplume. It does take the hit, so does Metagross, but neither one very well. Vileplume just going for the side Pollen Puff into Metagross. They're trying to keep Metagross healthy and win the game with that. Makes sense. That's pretty much their out at this point. Metagross will get a Rock Slide into Volcarona. And you know, okay, Metagross and Floette have actually both been able to sit on the field and attack things. Floette has taken out the things it's meant to threaten, but Metagross has now taken out its main threats. Both fire types on the other side have been knocked out by Metagross, while the Oguris have focused on doubling up with Floette to take out Metagross's partners. So this back and forth has kind of gone both ways up to this point, and Metagross, especially with Ditto permanently transformed into Vileplume, Metagross might be able to close this one out. It would be in a lot of danger if it were still weakened from that heat wave, but the side Pollen Puff came at just the right time. Vileplume, we know Ditto's moves. It has Pollen Puff, Giga Drain, Toxic, and Protect. Metagross can't be poisoned. Vileplume will protect here. We see Dazzling Gleam, but Metagross should not be in range of that. Takes that pretty well. This time it's side Pollen Puff into Floette. Oh yeah, they have that option too. Yeah, both sides can Pollen Puff now. But Floette still drops the Iron Head, so Metagross is going to be able to close this one out. And as much as I praised the Floette just sitting on the field and attacking things, and the KOs that it got for that, yeah, the trade-off was Floette not being very threatening into Metagross. Metagross was able to also sit on the field and attack things, and then when a lot of the other things were gone, Metagross still had the 1v1 advantage against Floette. So it was fun to watch how the Oguris played this game too. Just not a care in the world. Click Moonblast. But you can only ignore a problem for so long, I guess. And Metagross was able to let Floette sit there because it knew it could always beat Floette later. And in the meantime, it took out Floette's partners. So this is the flip side of the thing I said about Floette having done its job. Its usefulness kind of ended, but it was the Pokemon that was still there. And Metagross was able to take advantage in the end of... There's probably a lesson in here. It's probably a competitive Pokemon lesson in here, in that it looked very cool to see Floette just moonblasting through this game. But yeah, it was punished because Metagross could always bide its time and beat Floette in the end game. That's the point. The Vileplume has dropped to something from Ditto, but I'm expecting Metagross to just knock Ditto out now. Oh, it's Quick Claw Ditto. Okay. I mean, that's a reasonably common Ditto item, but now we get confirmation on what its item is. It gets a bit of recovery from Giga Drain, but it's not going to be very much after that doesn't do very much to Metagross. And Iron Head gets the KO. So we are going to game 3. What has happened in this set so far? The Trick Room game plans have never worked out for the Marshadows, but genuinely, like, playing Metagross a little bit more carefully in Game 2 and not getting burned seemed to make a pretty significant difference. I guess Volcarona also just never really came in at the right time to get the burn. Right? Like, Volcarona could come in on a Hammer Arm into Incineroar, and that could work out for the Oguris. Potentially. But, yeah, Metagross burned versus Metagross not burned seemed to make a pretty big difference. Even with 2 fire types on the other side, the Oguris didn't have quite enough threat. And then Vileplume being able to Pollen Puff Metagross so that it couldn't be knocked out by Floette also made a huge difference. Game 3 now, Incineroar and Floette lead once again for the Oguris. The same lead as the last 2 games, but they changed the order. And we see Toxicroak showing up this time for the Marshadows. Blastoise and Toxicroak. And what's it going to be? Blastoise going for Fake Out by the looks of it. We know Incineroar is the faster Fake Out. Actually, Blastoise changes his mind and just goes for Shell Smash. But Toxicroak also showing Fake Out, and also, more importantly here, perhaps, showing Quick Guard. I mean, again, Floette can just Moonblast Blastoise, and that makes the Water Spout a lot less viable. Like in Game 2, but sort of like in Game 2. But Incineroar will not be denying this Shell Smash. If they don't attack Blastoise, Blastoise puts out a lot of pressure, and even if they do, +2 Mega Launcher Water Pulse is going to hurt. Floette will Mega Evolve here. So we are getting the same 2 Megas immediately. We're kind of used to at this point. Well, it's the same as Game 1 in that respect. Blastoise Mega Evolves. Loads up its cannons. And there's the Quick Guard. Are we going to see Fake Out from Incineroar? We are. It's stopped by the Quick Guard, so Blastoise is not flinched. Floette just goes for Dazzling Gleam. That does a lot to Toxicroak and a decent amount to Blastoise. That's going to weaken the Water Spout some, but the Water Spout, it's not going to be insanely strong now, but I think it still hits pretty hard if they want to go for it, especially at +2. But let's see. I haven't run the numbers on this. Maybe the Marshadows coach has. They went for Water Spout there, so that might be our answer. It's an interesting Toxicroak. I wonder what Encore is for. Probably to punish setup, because the Oguris have some pretty setup-focused options in their draft. It looks like Toxicroak went for Poison Jab into Incineroar. I mean, I don't think Floette... Well, I don't know. I have no idea how well Floette is going to take this Water Spout, but I'm looking forward to finding out. And Floette is... Mega Floette is pretty specially bulky. Well, we don't get to find out right now, because it protects... So, +2 Water Spout at like half HP, but that's still going to hurt. I don't think Incineroar is going to take it. Nope, that thing's health bar disappeared about as quickly as it could. The Poison Jab then will be redirected into Floette, but Floette protected, so no damage from that. But what do the Oguris have for this? They haven't really faced... Because of how aggressively they played Game 2, they haven't really had to face setup Blastoise before. But there's the Ditto. It copies the Shell Smash boosts. It's at full HP, and it has that Quick Claw. Can Ditto turn this one around for the Oguris? Blastoise, it looks like, is just going for the Water Spout. This is a speed tie. Well, okay, Ditto also can Fake Out Blastoise, which I think is why they're thinking about Quick Guard here. But they're not going for it. And it is Fake Out into Blastoise. The Marshadows hovered over that Quick Guard. Did not commit. Dazzling Gleam takes out Toxicroak and Blastoise, and now it's only the Oguris that have a boosted Mega Blastoise, and theirs is at full HP. There could have been an interesting speed tie situation there, with the Ditto being slightly advantaged because of its Quick Claw. But no need. And again, I mean, you saw the thought process there. The Marshadows almost covered for that Fake Out, and then they didn't. Metagross comes in and protects. Vileplume is going for something into Blastoise. I didn't see what it was. But Floette and Blastoise put out so much offensive pressure, and Metagross cannot just sit comfortably this time. It protects. Big water spout. +2. Let's see what this does to Vileplume at least. A lot of damage. And now Floette gets to go next, right? Yeah, and it's Moonblast into Vileplume. Very, very safe, because I'm sure Metagross doesn't take the water spout, even if it doesn't protect. So the Oguris are just going to sweep the Marshadows aside here. Game 1. Okay, Ditto is kind of quietly the star of this set, even as I've talked a bunch about the Floette and the Metagross. Game 1. Metagross got burned, but also Ditto came in, turned into Oranguru, and reversed the Trick Room. And the Marshadows, between that and the burn on Metagross, just couldn't quite keep up with the damage output. Game 2, Metagross was the star. Perhaps in part because Blastoise did not get to safely set up a Shell Smash, because in Game 3, Blastoise gets the Shell Smash, but Ditto just comes in and yoinks it from them. That was quite a set, and the Oguris still backing up their claim so far that they can beat anyone except the East Coast Espurr. That'd be a great one to end on, but that's not how it's going to be, because there's one set left between the Oceanic Oshawotts and what is a stab move anyway. What is a stab? Have what look like Tailwind offense with Aerodactyl or Staraptor and Hisuian Typhlosion again, but they also have their Hisuian Goodra, and they have Meowstic, which could potentially set screens or disrupt an opponent's damage in other ways, so Tailwind offense is the main thing I see here, but I wouldn't want to sleep on setup Goodra. Maybe I'm biased because I used setup Goodra this week. On the Oshawott side, Garchomp, Raichu, Skarmory, Glade, Sylveon, Scovillain. I mean, Mega Skarmory is probably a reasonable answer to the two flying types on the other side, but it's very, very threatened by a lot of the rest of their team, especially the Typhlosion. I don't know. It's often kind of a good stuffs approach from the Oshawotts, but that doesn't mean that they don't have some good techs prepped. I do like Glade here because they can threaten Hisuian Goodra and Empoleon, like not much else that they have can. Garchomp is super threatening into this whole team. I bet Garchomp has real potential here to do a lot, but has to watch out for Intimidate from Staraptor. It's Skarmory and Garchomp lead against Aerodactyl and Typhlosion. We see Skarmory's Megastone, and we see Choice Scarf Garchomp. Yeah, Choice Scarf Garchomp makes a lot of sense to me here. For the you can kind of park it next to Skarmory and Earthquake a lot of this stuff. But there are the two flying types to worry about. Staraptor switches in here, intimidates Garchomp and Skarmory. Skarmory Mega Evolves. Garchomp does just go for the Earthquake, but nothing else on the field is affected by that, and it takes a bunch of damage back from an Aerodactyl Ice Fang. We do see the Rough Skin Chip. We see Skarmory, Ironhead take out Aerodactyl. Meowstic comes in now for stab. Raichu switches in, so I guess if Meowstic wanted to go for like Thunder Wave, Raichu would redirect that. Or I guess they're covering for Charm into Garchomp, but instead it's just Side Charm into Mega Staraptor, Close Combat into Mega Skarmory, Crit, KO, Boosts. I guess Raichu is also one of their best threats into Staraptor, but with Staraptor already boosted, well, it might not be that afraid of Raichu, but it is going to be pretty afraid of Sylveon still, I would think. Let's see, Meowstic protects, Staraptor protects. They avoid a Fake Out from Raichu, makes sense, and then Hyper Voice from Sylveon. And now we see Fake Tears Meowstic boosting Staraptor's special defense, but is not even going to need that against Sylveon right now, as it just takes Sylveon out with a +2 Steel Wing before getting paralyzed by Nuzzle. That is now +3 special defense Staraptor. We see Garchomp come in. This time Garchomp does get charmed. Its Rock Slide does not do very much. Staraptor also takes that Raichu Thunderbolt pretty well. Close Combat knocks Raichu down to a Focus Sash, so it doesn't quite KO, but it gives Staraptor some more defensive boosts. We see another Charm into Garchomp. That Rock Slide is barely tickling anything now. Thunderbolt, the damage from the Thunderbolt is adding up, but Staraptor now just gets to knock out the Raichu, and Garchomp doesn't look like it has any significant damage left. It's going to go all the way down to -6 attack. And then crit Staraptor and knock that out anyway, sure, but I think it loses to Typhlosion now. They just use Charm again. I guess there's nothing else to do, but Garchomp's attack stat is as low as it can be. Typhlosion takes 13% from Rock Slide. That's an incredible statement to say. and it takes Garchomp out with a Shadow Ball. And so what is a stab move? I've made a statement here in Game 1, just absolutely sweeping their opponent aside with the classic Mega Staraptor plus side stat drops. I mean, I do like that the Meowstic has both Charm and Fake Tears. Those both came in handy here. But we're going to have to see what the Oshawotts have for Mega Staraptor in Game 2, because they didn't have very good answers in Game 1. Garchomp and Skarmory being susceptible to Intimidate is kind of an issue. Also, Garchomp locking itself into Earthquake when there are 2 flying types on the other side. I wonder whether we'll see the Sylveon played a bit more aggressively, or maybe the Scovillain show up and redirect attacks away from Sylveon, but let's see. Skarmory Raichu lead this time against Meowstic and Staraptors. The Raichu will immediately make Staraptor a little less comfortable here, or it'll just switch out to Gallade, what do I know. We see the Mega Meowstic now. I forgot that was an option for what is stab, but we're not going to see Mega Staraptor in this game. Instead, Meowstic will Mega Evolve. It'll copy Weak Armor with Trace. Be pretty funny if that has any effects on this game. Let's see. Just protecting around the Raichu Fake Out, but that gives Skarmory a chance to set Tailwind. That means Gallade gets to... Oh, shoot, clicked wrong Mega. Okay, apparently Mega Meowstic was not the plan here. Gallade gets to outspeed Staraptor, do 90% with a Sacred Sword. Skarmory Ironhead does not as much to Meowstic. It does activate the Weak Armor, so Meowstic will go up to +2 speed now. The Tailwind might not be as valuable as the Oshawotts might have wanted, but we'll see. It goes for Charm anyway. Oh! Of course it was an accidental Mega. We've seen 3 of its 4 moves. Protect, Charm, and Fake Tears. If it has an attack, it only has 1. So that might be a pretty unfortunate accidental Mega. The Meowstic is a +2 speed, but what's it going to do with it? It just charms Gallade here, and then Brave Bird does a bunch of damage to Gallade, but Staraptor feints the recoil. We see Typhlosion come in. Gallade had the Koba Berry. That's why we didn't see an item just now. I missed that. That explains how it took the Brave Bird. Skarmory Mega evolves. But we get Fake Tears into Skarmory. Brave Bird takes out Meowstic. That Meowstic might not have an attack. So again, a pretty unfortunate Mega. Gallade shows Aqua Cutter, but it does a little bit less than half to Typhlosion. And both Gallade and Skarmory drop to a Heat Wave. But the +2 speed Mega Meowstic is gone. There's still 1 turn of Tailwind left for the Oshawotts. This is almost a safer position to Earthquake, except they hit their own Raichu, but maybe it's worth it, or maybe Raichu protects. We get Fake Out into Goodra, and then it is just Earthquake. It'll knock Raichu down to its Sash, I think. And Goodra shows a Shuka Berry, but Goodra will not get to move this turn. Tailwind ends, but Goodra's definitely the slowest Pokemon on the field. It protects. Garchomp just mercilessly. Of course, it's choice locked, but it just takes out its partner Raichu with the Earthquake. Does that mean that it's now a single target Earthquake into Goodra? I don't know for sure how that works when your partner is a valid target, but in any case, that Earthquake takes out Goodra. Goodra took, what? 39% through the Shuka Berry. So I don't know if the Earthquake, if the nuances of that damage power determination mattered or not. But okay, Scarf Garchomp able to deliver this one for the Oshawotts after the opponent only brings 1 flying type this time, and it's taken out in the early game somehow. What happened to the Staraptor? Gallade did 90 and then it took itself out with recoil, but maybe the Staraptor plays differently if Meowstic doesn't accidentally Mega Evolve. So let's see if Stab can avoid that mistake this time, and if the Mega Staraptor can go crazy again in Game 3. Skarmory and Garchomp back to the Game 1 lead against Staraptor and Meowstic. Intimidate immediately into these 2 physical threats. Staraptor does Mega Evolve this time. It gets Charmed. It gets to +2 attack. It doesn't take very much from a -1 Rock Slide. Takes out Garchomp with close combat. Gets its defense boosts. Then it takes a lot from a Brave Bird, though. Okay. Well, the Staraptor is kind of under pressure then. It'll protect here around Raichu's Fake Out. We see a Charm into Mega Skarmory. And then Meowstic gets taunted, so we might be about to find out whether this Meowstic has an attack. But the way it played in Game 2 after Mega Evolving, I suspect that it doesn't. Skarmory switches out to Gallade. Raichu will take out Staraptor with a Volt Switch. Meowstic unable to... I mean, I don't know if a Fake Tears would even be enough there. That Staraptor was super low, but they don't get the chance to even try or to go for Roost with Staraptor as Raichu outspeeds and knocks it out. And that brings Skarmory right back in without the attack drops. Meowstic unable to click Charm. confirmed unable to click anything. Just goes for struggle. Randomly targets Gallade. Typhlosion is here. Skarmory will switch out for Raichu. Meowstic will switch out for Goodra and get rid of the taunt. That Heat Wave does a lot. No, Gallade takes it reasonably well. An Aqua Cutter back almost KOs, but not quite. Typhlosion on paper could still be threatening, but it's going to be outsped by Raichu, isn't it? Or do we know that it's not Scarf Typhlosion? Well, we'll just find out. Raichu actually goes for Fake Out into Goodra, so leaves itself vulnerable to a Heat Wave, which does knock it out, but it doesn't knock out Gallade. Gallade gets an Aqua Cutter into Typhlosion. This all makes perfect sense if it is Scarf Typhlosion. I didn't really think until now about whether it is. Because now Gallade can still threaten Goodra pretty comfortably, although it has to watch out for Meowstic clicking Charm. Although, like, not if Skarmory taunts the Meowstic again. We see Gallade protect. That's what I was a little too slow, but I was going to say, are we going to see Gallade protect so that Skarmory can taunt Meowstic before Gallade threatens Goodra? Looks like that is what's happening. There's the taunt. Gallade avoids a Dragon Claw. And then it's Brave Bird taking out Meowstic, so I guess the taunt was actually unnecessary because that just KOs. Skarmory could have freed itself up a turn earlier to damage Goodra, but I didn't know either. That's why I was talking about the taunt. And Gallade shows Sacred Sword, and it knocks out the Goodra. And although Megastoraptor absolutely ran away with Game 1, I guess this is the risk of Megastoraptor. This is why I was not drafted in Pool B, even though I was really thinking about it round 1. Staraptor had an incredible Game 1, but, you know, it kind of had one linear game plan, and it didn't manage to do it a second time. Although the accidental Mega Meowstic was also an issue there. But Megastoraptor looked amazing in Game 1, and I suspect we're going to see more from it as the season goes on. I'm not selling my Megastoraptor stocks just yet. But the Oceanic Oshawotts did what they do best, brought just a solid mix of strong Pokemon that their coach is mostly very familiar with. And honestly, just played some Pokemon. You know, got into the flow of the game and made the right adjustments and plays. And picked apart the opponent's team until it was gone. Raichu outspeeding things was big in Game 3. Gallade taking those 2 Heat Waves was big in Game 3. The Oshawotts take the win. And that's the end of Week 2. And all I can say is I'm looking forward to what kinds of weird techs we see in Game 3. This league is always something. Week 3. Whatever.